Sorry, I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to fix it. I'm still not seeing it. Let me see if it comes up. It says it's streaming on YouTube. That's an improvement. Let's see. Sorry, I'm trying to I'm trying to see if this is working now. Oh, it was a little baby. Okay. All right. Let me see. All right. It's working now. Good. Good. Stressing me, Lord. Hi, how are you? Welcome to Level Up Single Mom. It's your girl Vitamin Key. And this is Level Up Single Mom, the platform where I teach single mothers and black women how to self-actualize with ease and grace. Hey MJ. Welcome to tonight's discussion. I'm gonna give it a minute or two. Oh, it's three people. Hi. I'm gonna give it a minute or two for people to come in. Just shoot the ish. Thank you so much. Listen, I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with whether or not. Hi, Chrissy. I was going to do glam today because of, the conversation and the different just the different views and like my stance on the whole situation. It was kind of like, do I want to just do regular how I looked before I did all this, or did I want to do the thing? But I needed to dress up a little bit today because I wasn't feeling the best. I'm kind of going through something in my personal life, so I needed a little bit of a pick me up, and it's rainy, all the things. Plus, one of the things I'm going to show you guys has someone, and she was wearing a green thing, and I was like, oh, I got a green shirt, I could, so she kind of inspired me. She said, why are you squinting again? Because you're going to get this effort, okay? You're going to see this for a while, and then when I get tired of it, I got my glasses right here, so when I get tired of it, I will put my glasses on. But for right now, you're going to see my artistry that I did. That's why. Hi, everybody. Wake up, run and tell, concern. Hey, boo. I'm trying to find you. I had your thing. So yeah, welcome everybody. Come in. What do I want to do in the beginning here? I feel like I know exactly what I want to do. Before I do the intro. So I'm gonna set the tone with something that I saw. First of all, no, backstory. I was planning on doing this. Some of you saw me. I was on TikTok live doing my makeup the other day because I caught myself doing some batch content, and I was trying to be industrious and dutiful and do my work, whatever. Hey, Kitty. Hi, Sally Joe. I caught myself trying to be a real content creator, and I was going to do batch content. And so I did record myself doing my makeup while I was talking to you guys or some of you on TikTok live. And I started editing that because I did a voice note. Hey, Jiggly. I did a voice note to do the voiceover because I told y'all, like, I can't do my makeup and entertain people. I just cannot do it. We'll be here all night. I'll never get it done. So I did that, and I started editing it, but I felt like I didn't really like the voice note I did. Like, even when I did the voice note, I'm gonna be honest, from the beginning, because I did the voice note before I did anything. When I did the voice note, I just was like, this feels incomplete. It didn't feel organic. Because the way my thoughts and stuff flow, I think because I was putting so much pressure on myself to like say the right things, or not say the right things. Like, I was saying what I meant, but in terms of like how the complexity of the issue for me, I did not feel like I really got into the weeds with it the way I wanted to. And then as the days went on, I kept seeing content that I kind of was like, oh, this would be great to slide in there. Maybe I could fit it in, maybe I could clip it, whatever. And hello. And I just found myself getting a lot of anxiety around like trying to make this thing because I wanted it to be complete. I wanted to be, this is serious business for me. So, and I want it to be serious business for y'all. Like, I want it to be something that people can actually get something of value from. So it wasn't working out in the way that I had conceived it. And then, like I said, I was getting all this other content, kind of unrelated, but I see a connection. I was just like, you know what? Oh, and I was looking like at my analytics and looking at what content of mine has been performing the best. And my lives perform the best, like hands down. It's my live streams, because this was going to be like a static video that I pre-recorded and edited and stuff. And I was just like, you know what? Let me just go ahead and just do this live, because I have so much more that I want to say to kind of round out the conversation. And that just seems to be the way things are leaning. So let me do it. And then I was saying, for those of y'all who are just coming in, when it comes to like my glam and stuff, I partially wasn't going to do, like, I was going back and forth between whether or not I was going to show up, because you guys know I said, like, I don't feel like it's fair that people are judging people by the fact that they're not doing all the, I mean, we'll get into it because I don't want to do like straw man arguments or anything like that. I really want to have a real grown up, thorough conversation about it. And then later on, like, if anybody else wants to come, you guys can talk about it. But I wanted to I need to unload all of these thoughts too, because once I get it out and communicate it to y'all, then I think I'll be able to kind of get it off of my mental load and move on to something else. So yeah. So I want to start with, I said the conversation overall is about misogynoir. That is the way I see it. Like, everything being connected by that common thread. That is misogynoir. So I want to start with something that I just saw. I think I just saw it this morning. And it really like hit home for me in terms of what we're experiencing, where all this stuff is coming from, why it feels the way it feels for a lot of us, and to just prime all of you guys for the conversation we're going to have. So let me see here.
Community, can we please stop pedestalizing Frederick fucking Douglass? Okay? That man would have died a slave if it wasn't for his first wife, Anna Murray Douglass. If it wasn't for her and the money she had, that fucker would have died a slave. And he never would have went on to live happily ever after with one of the white suffragettes he was banging behind his black wife's back. The white suffragettes who came into their marital home and said that they pitied her while blanking her black husband in their marital home with their children, where he continued to bring white suffragettes to their home for his black wife to cook and clean for them. Where when she died, he later went on to marry one of them white bitches. I'm going to need y'all to stop pedestalizing that fucker. This is the same man who, while he went off gallivanting all over the fucking globe, left his black wife to maintain their home as a stop on the Underground Railroad. Yeah! This is the same abolitionist who went on to write many of writings about his white wife, and then said that he didn't feel like writing about his black wife was necessary because he said she was illiterate and didn't fit into the social standard of what a woman should be. His black wife, who freed him from slavery, who he didn't write about. Abolitionists, what the fuck ever. Can we just stop? As a black community,
Okay, so I feel like y'all picking up what I'm putting down here. You know what I mean? Like, that really struck me because In all of the conversation that we're having about the Black woman's image and things like that, for me, something that has stuck out for me is it really doesn't matter how we present or even what we actually do, whether we're presenting it well or just being utilitarian. The common thread in all of this is how Black women are actually treated. And when it comes to like how we're presenting or whether or not we're actually respectable and this and that and the other, those narratives typically are only existing to serve the people who are doing us wrong. Like, and it goes all the way through everything that's happening right now, from, you know, this conversation about, which is a kind of innocuous conversation in a way, about the statue. Not really, but you know, in terms of everything that's going on, the statue's not a real person actually. And so we're just kind of talking about ideas when it's coming to that. But it goes all the way down to what's happening with the Diddy case, the stuff that's resurfacing with Megan Thee Stallion's case, and how people are treating those cases, Halle Bailey, how people are treating those instances, how people are treating those women, how people are speaking about those women. And these are women who are accomplished, who have the accolades, you know what I mean? And they're still being treated the same way. They're still being devalued the same way and for the same purpose, to uplift notable Black men. So I wanted to set the tone for that. Let me see here what you guys are saying. Wika says that's why we say they never really wanted us right. Kenny says, you cheat after I do all that for you and try to make me cook food for your mistress, you'll end up buried in the yard. Listen. When I heard, first of all, because I remember having to remember all the Black history facts and stuff when I was in school and all those types of things, that we would have to do recitals or Black history bees where we would have to answer the questions. And I remember like Frederick Douglass just being a staple in that. And it pisses me off to no end that was never explained to me about that person, but that's exactly how they expect Black history. And that's why I want to be clear about something too. I'm not going to talk about anti-Blackness. I'm going to do my best to be mindful to not use the term anti-Blackness, because in light of that, I think that drives home that idea that when people are talking about anti-Blackness, they're really talking about anti-Black men. They're not concerned about women. So in order to pinpoint that we're discussing what's going on with Black women, I'm just going to be talking about Misogynoir, and I'm going to keep it on Misogynoir. It says, how are the only ones who Black women are the only ones who were brought here to labor? It seems like it. So I'm going to, with that, setting that tone, let you get that together. I'm going to go ahead, play the intro, and then we'll come back with my next clip. I wanted to already have that together, but it wouldn't allow me to have both the things in the background. I don't know why, but don't worry about it. We're getting it together. I feel like I got a little flow going though. This is going to be a good show. Hold on. This is a manga.
No problem. You in charge of the girls, right? I am in charge of the girls. Are you in charge of the girls? I am in charge of the
Who calling me? Sorry, you was calling me to tell me I was a girl. I was talking the whole time. I was saying that. I was saying that this next clip is of a lady, but that actually is good because that gave me a chance to get her together in the background. um this lady is, hold on. Y'all can hear me now, right? Chef Misogynoir. Right? They was trying to get your girl. Oh, thank you, Wake Up, and thank you, Alicia, for for getting my attention and told me. Um, this lady to me embodies what I felt like femininity content was supposed to be when I first got introduced to it. To me, she exhibits a mindfulness that I don't feel like. I feel like most femininity content that I have seen has been solely about like social climbing for real, and acquisition, and the embodiment of an ideal for personal gain, which I don't, I tell you all the time, get that money on. If you're going to be dealing with people, be mindful, know what it is you're going for, know what it is you want and could get out of the situation, and get the most that you can get. That even if you leave that situation, you will be better off for having done it. But there is this lack of kindness, this lack of awareness, or this lack of care for humanity and for your fellow woman, in my mind, in my opinion, that is like threaded all throughout most femininity content, even to the point of just being disgustingly uncharitable to other Black women. But this lady, when I've seen her talk, she talks with a mindfulness that I greatly enjoy and admire, and so I figured I would share her with you. Um, oh, thank you so much, Linda. What you say? Gonna catch up in 2 times and then fall in. But I'm gonna say before I hear the first thing you say when you see a Black femme in a large body is, mammy, you are an agent of white supremacy. I agree with you, Channel. I agree with you absolutely. Um, Thank you, London Link. I'm glad you like it. uh, Thank you, Alicia. Everybody, who does? Yes, Zick chasing. Okay, chasing the Zick. They don't even always be chasing the money. They be chasing the Zick. Okay. Um, Everyone say hi to Alicia. So I'm gonna go ahead. Do I have it queued up? I think I kind of messed it up a little bit. It's cool though. We can get it back. We can get it back. Do Oh no, I don't want media. I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry, you guys. Where's she at? Right here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Statue of a black woman in the middle of Times Square right now, and people are
Can
losing their
y'all hear
minds.
her?
Some
She's
are
so
calling her
low.
disgruntled, ghetto, unkempt, even mocking. But here's the
Let
truth:
me know if you
she
can hear
looks
her.
like
Is it
someone
too
you
low?
know, your mom, your sister, your friend, maybe even you. And that's the point. This is the work of Thomas J. Rice, a British sculptor flipping the script on who we celebrate in public art. Traditionally, statues of powerful white men. But this is different. She's fictional, made from real life observations. She's not posing, not heroic, just grounded, human. The statue is called Grounded in the Stars. And instead of putting another great man on
Okay, so I turned it all the way up on my computer, but that's why I was asking, because I was noticing that it was kind of low for me, but she speaks in like hushed tones because she's so feminine. So I don't really know what to wait. Can I turn this part up? I can turn this part up. I'll turn this part up. So I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna start it over and see if you guys can hear better.
there's a 12-foot bronze statue of a black woman in the middle of Times Square right now, and people are losing their minds. Some are calling her disgruntled, ghetto, unkempt, even mocking. But here's the truth: She looks like someone you know, your mom, your sister, your friend, maybe even you. And that's the point. This is the work of Thomas J. Price, a British sculptor flipping the script on who we celebrate in public art. Traditionally, statues of powerful white men, but this is different. She's fictional, made from real life observations. She's not posing, not heroic, just grounded, human. The statue is called Grounded in the Stars. And instead of putting another great man on a pedestal, Price chose to honor the everyday Black woman, the one constantly overlooked, yet always holding it down. But some people outraged, saying she's too ordinary, too tired. But that's exactly the problem. Why did we only value Black women when they're perfect, polished, and palatable? We praise Renaissance paintings and ancient sculptures of full figured women, calling them masterpieces, fertility goddesses. So why not her? Body types go in and out of style, but dignity, representation, and truth should never be a trend. Price said it himself. Public art should reflect us, not just the polished few, but the powerful truth of everyday existence. The point of art is to make you think, spark discourse. So if this statue triggered something in you, ask yourself why. What are you reacting to? And what are you saying about your neighbor, your mother, your sister, your friend, even yourself when you put her down? Your wife. Is she not worthy of art?
All right, I'm back. So you heard that? Hi, Yolanda. Did everybody hear that? I think you heard that. You said you really like her content, so you heard what she said. Yes, I like her content too. I think the first thing I saw of her, she was explaining. I like, there's another woman called Alex Baytall, and I like her content. And I saw her talking about like the politics of Black women, unambiguously Black women, and mixed Black women, just any woman that is associated with Blackness, and we'll get to that later. Showing up hyper feminine, showing up in this particular way, in what would be considered a feminine, desirable way, and how that is how where the political aspect of that lies. I've seen a couple different women and girls making content where they're really diving into the sociological aspect of it. And so I enjoy that kind of content. And then she popped up and there was something she was talking about. And I just love, like I said, the way that she seemed to recognize that she wasn't just talking to women like her who believe as she does, who presents as she does. She's talking to everyone, and she's kind to everyone and respectful to everyone. Let me see. And then when I saw this, I was like, yes, this is, I would want to share this, because as someone who has been identified as one of these, you know what I mean, because of how I present through Level Up Single Mom and whatnot. I still feel it's even more important for people like me, sorry, and her. My throat just got real dry for no reason. Now I had no water. Um, for people like me and her to speak about these things, because for one, I think there's an assumption that if you have the ability to do this, that you aren't going to necessarily be able to identify with the image that we're talking about. Oh yeah, let me pull that up. Can I switch what this is showing? I just removed the source. I think there's an assumption that you shouldn't identify, or you can't identify with women who just show up like the statue. Is that the picture I want to use, or do I want to use the one in its entirety? Oh yeah, I got multiple pictures. Okay. Yeah, I'll use that picture. Sorry, this thing is wacky now in terms of how the layout is behind the scenes. But if you show up like this statue, and there's this like assumption that you live better than this person, right? That you um are better than this person, or who people seem to perceive this person to be. And so I do think that it's important for women who own their sensuality, who own their desirability, who know they look good. You know what I mean? Who know that they look a way that people will respect, to speak up for the women who are not presenting this way. Because as someone who it can go either way. In most ways, it goes the other way for me, most days. I know that how that woman, first of all, there's nothing wrong with that woman, the way that woman looks right now. Like, I want to be clear about that. There's nothing wrong with the way that that woman looks. Can I make me bigger? I want to make me bigger, but I don't want to make this. Help me, Lord. Oh, wait, here it is. Okay, that's fine. There's something about women who are dressed like that. You don't know what they're capable of. And we all had this conversation. We had the conversation. Hey, True. We had the conversation on TikTok. We had the conversation on Themis' show. You know, like, we've had the conversation all over. Said I walked around like that. Listen, let me tell you, y'all was this close from getting. I didn't even look like that because I was going to have my hair wrapped up and everything. I wasn't going to wear my bonnet, but I did put like a scarf on today when I went and took my daughter to school. So I was going to just have my hair in a scarf, no makeup. You wouldn't have been able to see that I didn't have a bra on because I had like a sweatshirt on. But like, because I wanted to stand in solidarity with the statement. But I said, you know what? I saw the lady we just watched, and I was like, let me do my thing. Let me just sprinkle a little something on the girls. It says, I'm caught up. People losing their minds about this statue has been great. I know exactly which 92% are. Listen, that's been my thing. Like, even though it's been weighing so heavily on me, this and the other things that I'm going to talk about has been weighing so heavily on me. I also am taking the opportunity to take note of who's saying what. Some people I'm not surprised, but you know, in a general sense, because I think now more than ever it's time to separate the wheat from the chaff. And let me draw back that language, because I'm on this kick now of being mindful of how I'm talking about things, and like not trying to put myself above people in a particular way, in the same way that people are like, because you can classify things without putting them down, you know what I mean, or putting them below you. It's okay. I don't see a problem with classifying things and saying, well, this is category or whatever. But when you get into that level of like, oh, well, this person, I'm better, or I'm more moral or whatever, like that can be tricky. It says, I got gas earlier, had on a shirt and black jeans, and while I waited for my gas to finish, my hands were on my. Listen, sidebar. That lady that sat there up on Themis' live and played in our faces and said that she had never in her life seen anybody put their hands on their hips. I said, oh, we're playing games. This is a game that you got. Like, are you ever in your life, you've never seen anybody just hit a quick. You've never seen nobody like that. That just was too much for me. I said, oh, these people are lying. These are also women who organize exactly. These are women who are so busy doing the things of life that they don't have time, or they don't even, it doesn't even register to them to want to do the, and we're going to get into that, but the pageantry that is aesthetics, these kinds of aesthetics. So what I mean, Alicia in this sound is so funny to me. She do it all the time. Just lying, Kenny. about the craziest stuff. Like they just really, that's how you know, like you can't really have these conversations with people for real, because they just be lying, and they be lying to themselves more than anything. London Lane says she must have never touched grass and was shut in. That was the only way. Exactly. Like you've seen it on television. It's just a normal thing. Anybody, and it can be attitude no more often than not. Like if we're talking about like television, it may be somebody with the attitude, but I know more in real life, plenty of people, especially in the Black community, you ain't stood around your grandma or your mama when she cooking Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, and she just, she ain't gonna sit down, but she's standing around or she watching you. You ain't never seen nobody. Okay. All right. I ain't gonna argue with you about it. Yolanda says, I heard someone ask, why is there this type of outrage for the Real Housewives and Love and Hip Hop shows that are on television? I will say, in the beginning-ishness of that, I do remember people kind of being like, oh, that's a bad representation, blah, 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 blah. Like, towards the beginning of it. But I don't know what happened to it. Eventually, I guess they just gave up because it was so popular. Thank you, Summer. It was so popular that, money talks. So, I don't know. Says, glad I didn't see that. Also, just to quibble, the position of her hands is slightly back the way they are is a good quick stretch and chest opener. Anyone not doing this regularly should. Yes, I think anybody who is real knows that there's no way. I'm sorry, there's just no way in hell you never know anyone has ever just not ever in their life did that. Because sometimes it is just a simple, I'm stretching, I'm taking my time, whatever. It says they lie natural pros, especially for keeping the center of balance, or women who associated the depiction of the statue with the mammy. So we're getting there. Yes, we need to get back on track because we could be on this all night. We could be just that aspect of it. We could be on this all night. But the part that really bothered me about the situation was that this is a neutral stance. Like I'm not gonna argue with nobody. It is what it is. This is a neutral stance. This depiction of this woman, her face. In fact, let's get back up on her face. Her face is neutral. I don't see an attitude. I don't see any tension, in her face, any kind of anger, anything like that. I just see a woman standing, hands on hips, looking forward, maybe even not looking at what she's looking at. You know what I mean? Maybe lost in thought, but I don't see anger. I don't see aggression, right? But what I do see, and even they were talking about like her clothes were wrinkled or whatever. They're not. This is smooth. They said they saw nipples. There are no nipples. Let's zoom in. There are no nipples. Okay. The t-shirt is smooth. Let's go down. The pants are smooth. It looks like, a non-wrinkled t-shirt and yoga pants. And let's go back out. Go to the next. This is the statue proper. So this is the whole thing from top to bottom. Here we go, facing forward all the way down. They were saying they didn't like her shoes. They look like regular, Croc shoes or something. They look comfortable. But again, the whole situation screams, I'm comfortable today. You know what I mean? Like I'm just getting it done. I'm dressed, I'm clean, I'm neat. And that's all I need to be. Let me see. This is where, but this is what people are trying to say that this is what people saw when they saw that statue. And that to me is the issue. This is what, she looked lost in thought. Hold on. I thought I was putting it up there. Yeah. She looked lost in thought. But this is what people are feeling like. And then there was another one. I don't have that. I've seen it, but I'm not putting it up there. This is what they're saying they felt like this looks like to them. And that pisses me off so bad because let me go back. Let's go back so we can compare. how you get that from this? That's not the same thing. But I do understand and I recognize, and we gotta, that's what I want to kind of confront. Why is it that when you see this could be any person, and this is just regular, everyday, respectable in terms of just going outside, like this is neutral to me. You know what I mean? This is neutral. It's not fancy. It's not vulgar. But they saw vulgarity. They saw a lack of class. They saw ghetto. They saw baby mama culture, like all of the things. They put all of the tropes, and this is why this is relevant to Level Up Single Moms platform, because these are all the tropes they put on single mothers regardless, right? They put all of that on the shoulders of this woman who just looks like she could be just lost in thought during a break on a work day. And that's so hurtful. That's so disrespectful to her, and not only her, but the women that she was representing. And I know a lot of women are saying, hey, Coco, I know a lot of women are saying, oh, well, she doesn't represent me. And that's fine. But in the eyes, and this is the same thing I said about Kamala Harris when it came to people talking about what her race, actually, her racial makeup and ethnicity and all that other stuff, nationality, all those things were or were not. At the end of the day, when they were looking at her, the world at large was looking at her, they were looking at a Black woman in their mind. Because we can sit and talk about, oh, well, people just see this and people just see this and people just see that, when they want to burden this image with all their bullshit. But they didn't want to recognize that when, the world is telling you, well, we see that as a Black woman. You know what I mean? They wanted to nitpick. But anyways, that was so disheartening. It was disgusting to me. It, moved some of us to pain and anxiety and things like that. It just wasn't a good conversation. Kenny says, mind you, she doesn't have any kids because she doesn't. Okay. Like it really, everybody just told on themselves. When it came to the situation, it was just so much telling on themselves. And it's sad. Like it makes me sad, but I also can't say that I'm fully surprised, because considering the discussions we've been having all throughout my time in these spaces that I've been in, and the people are here, like we at this point, we know these people exist. But I think the most shocking part of it was just how many other Black women are so ready. Just they're jumping out ahead of the men. And maybe that's because I don't have a lot of men, like I don't follow and interact with a whole lot of men on social media per se, but I was overwhelmed by the amount of Black women of all different age, of all different ranges of like presentation, physical presentation, talking about this image in this way, and not just talking about this image in this way, because here's the thing, and we're going to really dissect this. I want you to be fully clear about what my stance is. The idea that you don't like this is not your taste. You would not dress that way, right? You do things to make sure that your body is tighter than that, and is more, looks more cared for than that, all that other stuff. Cool. You know what I mean? Like different strokes for different folks. I admire women that I see that are able to, a mastery of aesthetics in a way that either I aspire to or I know I will never be able to do. Like the most beautiful of us. You know what I mean? This didn't come from nowhere. I've been ingesting aesthetic excellence all of my life. And this is just my expression, my interpretation of the things that I have absorbed. So it's not that I don't like to see beautiful things, beautiful women, well structured, manicured women. I love old movies. And those old movie stars, they were manufactured, okay? They weren't just, oh, natural beauty, clean girl aesthetic. They were going under the knife. They were going under the zapper. They were doing all types of things to distill and refine these images and concepts of femininity, sensuality, seduction, all of these things. They were made into icons. They were made into icons. This type of thing is iconography. When I walk out like this, I'm not just representing myself, and I'm embodying something that is, I don't want to say ancient, because this particular presentation could never be ancient because it's so artificial, right? But it's something that has been here way before I was. You know what I mean? So embodying and manifesting and presenting these things, it does mean something. I mean, I have a license in cosmetology, okay? So I am a study of beauty and technique and all of these things. So it's not that I devalue any of that at all, but because I'm a student of it and a professional at it and someone who studies it, I recognize that it is not inherently us. It is not inherently us. And so I can understand that artist is trying to convey the beauty in the mundane as we just are. Now I wonder, you could say, oh, why didn't he just make her naked like they used to do the frescoes and all that other stuff? They would have lost their damn minds. Okay. But that's the absurdity of it, because back in and those are the classics now, right? Those are the classics. Wait, let me try to save some of your comments, because I do want to talk about your comments. I'm on the roll right now. The brain is working. I'm just starring your comments so I could come back to them. Welcome to anybody that's coming too. I got a lot of people in here. There's more people than I normally have. Hey y'all. Mm-hmm. Hi, Happy Mess. So yeah, like it's not that I don't, and it's not that I wouldn't love to have Black women be represented, and that connection solidified with Black women and beauty and sensuality in the ways that people respect it and revere it and treat it well. But I think where I'm getting to is, as we're looking at how beauty is treated, how everything that's going on simultaneously all at one time, it's not really treated that well. Like it's not really treated that well. And people are saying like, oh, they just threw this at us as an empty platitude. It's all empty platitudes. Megan Thee Stallion, Halle Bailey, Cassie, and who else? There's somebody else that's going through something right now. I can't remember. I feel like there's 4 women that's going through something right now. These are some of the most beautiful, talented, noteworthy women to this date. These are full-blown celebrities. And they are being treated as worthless. They are being treated as a criminal amidst their own abuse. So beauty is not saving you. And I know I'm not the first person that said that. Shout out to Kim Foster. You know what I mean? I'm not the first person to say that. But beauty is not saving us. This is not going to save me. If I go outside, somebody's still going to call me a fat bitch. Look at I can go outside looking just like this. Somebody's still going to call me a fat bitch. Somebody's still going to try to come at me the minute they know. Yes, Sky, thank you. The minute they know that I'm a single mother, someone's going to try to throw that at me. If they know that I'm single, somebody's going to try to throw that at me. You know what I mean? I go in a lot of different spaces. And people are always, I had the weirdest but funniest, it wasn't funny, but interaction with a man, and it was surrounding I forget what it was talking about. It was talking about something that's happening politically now, but this man brought up Kamala Harris. And he was saying something about, oh yeah, because y'all bought into this stuff and she's not even really Black and yada, yada, yada. And she wasn't really for Black people. And they were giving that whole, she wasn't going to do nothing for us. Obama never did anything for us spiel. And I'm just like, okay, some other woman responded to their comment and I responded to that woman's comment. And I was like, she was like, why are you even saying that? Like, that doesn't make sense. She would have done so much for Black people and other people, because that seems to be the issue that people have with Barack Obama and someone like Kamala Harris and anybody that comes. They want someone that's going to get up and say, I'm doing this specifically for Black people. You're never going to win any kind of election doing that, by the way, because you guys already know that they hate Black people. Like, that's part of your problem, is how much you think and know that they hate Black people. So why the fuck do you think that is ASMR? How the fuck do you think that somebody can win an election saying, I'm just going to do this for Black people? Or maybe it is that you want them to, hit them with the woo wop and slide in there saying one thing and then do something else. I don't know what your expectations are. What'd you say? She said, I was joking. Oh, she was joking, but she has a good eye. The artist cites Michelangelo's David and my hands. Yeah, listen, I'm a PBS kid. Okay, I'm smart. I mean, but I'm an egghead. I'm a nerd, right? So when I'm seeing, as much as I know of, the references and stuff like that, and I probably am more inclined to be able to pick up on the different references than most, right? But it's like, listen, we're going on a journey. Just stick with me. What you sending me, concerned? She said you better whisper, preach. Listen, because they need to know. We gonna get however your brain needs to ingest it. We'll figure it out. Let's see here. So I want to go. We went there. Now my mind is trying to figure out where we at, because I was just running my mouth. Let me get out of this. Oh, I want to also, because we talked about the statue. So now I want to talk about this beautiful, gorgeous goddess here, Miss Wunmi. I cannot pronounce. I probably could, but I don't remember. I never committed her last name to memory. I could probably read it fine, but I don't remember it, so I'm not going to say it. But Miss Wunmi, in the bosom of life. They were also speaking about her in a lot of, they were ascribing many of the the stereotypes to her and her body. No, I don't want to see y'all right now. As they were the statue, because they were saying that, and not just her appearance, but I do feel like a lot of it had to do with her appearance. Now, do I feel like some of the critiques of her behavior would have still been there depending on who was talking, no matter what she looked like? Absolutely, because I ain't about playing with these niggas either. You know what I mean? Like, I'd say scrutinize these men. Okay, so I get it. I sure do. But I do feel like a lot of the context of the work that she was participating in, that she was depicting, the story overall, the actual characters and how they actually relate to each other and who they seem to be as people, as individuals, I feel like that was not being taken into account, because in favor of just lambasting the big joint. You know what I mean? Of just dragging the big John for once again being a poor representation of Black womanhood and Black feminine power, because she seemed to be in service. A troll. Who we got? Where are my people? Where my mods at? I think it's a couple of y'all in here. Yeah. Oh, I can block them on here. Perfect. You're blocked. Ha! See, I know I like restream and add to the block list and restream chat. I sure will. Wumi Masaku. That's her. So I understand that there's a lot of people who were ascribing those stereotypes onto her solely because she is a bigger woman. You know what I mean? Or more readily and more viciously because she is a bigger woman. Now, we had full conversation about the beauty, just the face card alone, right? But I'm looking at her and I am that's how you know you're doing well. That's how you know you know you're doing your job. If they ain't trolling, you ain't doing your job, right? But looking at her body, we did like full body analysis on different people and just how the bodies can be different and stuff. Her arms are way smaller than my arms. Her chest is actually a lot bigger. I know I got a big chest, but she got way more chest than I got. But it's probably also because a lot of her mass is here. A lot of her mass is here in the breasticle area, in the breasticle area, right? Yes, she is thicker than the middle than your average movie star woman. However, she is undeniably beautiful, undeniably sexy, undeniably classy. Like the way she carried herself, like it's just too much. There's too much there. Thank you, Etched in Stone. And her voice, everything about this woman, I probably would be so in love with her. If I actually got to meet her, like I probably would be a stalker, okay? Because even just looking at her in this picture is like getting blurry because I blew it up. She said, not breasticles. That's what I call them. Chesticles, breasticles. Yeah, I thought she was beautiful even in Lovecraft. Exactly. And she in her, I love that. I did not watch Lovecraft Company. I did not watch Lovecraft Country. However, I saw a lot of like commentary about Lovecraft Country. And one of the things that I liked, I saw they were talking about her character there, was that she was an object of desire. And not just when she was in that white body, specifically when she was in her black body. That white man loved her. You know, like he was really into her. Says my twin, because I thought she just has boobs for everybody. Right. Like it's all breasts. It's Queen Latifah, another one. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of women who, because they have bigger, when I was in like middle school and stuff, that was kind of my experience. I've gotten bigger all over as I've gotten older, but I remember in middle school, just a lot of breasts for me to handle. You know what I mean? And so it's really hard for women who, and let's not even get started on like trying to dress for this, because if you look at the scale of her chest towards her, the rest of her body, if her breasts were not so big, she could wear smaller stuff. When you have large breasts like that, you have to why is this all highlighted? I don't like that. Please stop. Can I make it stop? Sorry, all right, yeah, it was looking crazy on my screen. When you have a large chest like that, you have to wear bigger clothes, especially if you're not someone who can get your clothes custom made or tailored or whatever like that. Like when you buy your clothes, you have to make sure those things can fit in them. And if those things can fit in them and the rest of your body is not as big to scale as those things, then your stuff is going to be bigger. You know, like it's just going to be bigger. It's going to look misshapen. It's not going to fit on you the same way as someone whose whole body is proportionate to a smaller body or a bigger body, or you know what I mean? Like you got big boobs and everything else is a lot smaller. It's going to look a little off. But this don't even look off. This look good to me. I don't care what anybody say. Since I have a larger chest, it's a struggle. I know, girl. I know. And even with me having bigger arms, like sometimes, because people don't really, even when you have plus size clothing, I think me and Wake Up were talking about this on the TikTok live. Plus size clothing just means, you know, the scale of the clothing. So they size the clothing up. But if the thing is shaped like a Coke bottle and you not shaped like a Coke bottle, you're going to have a problem. If the thing has little teeny arms because it expects you to look like Woon Me, but you got big ass arms like me, you're going to have a problem. So it's not like, you know, there's still not things that need to be done in terms of really accommodating what larger bodies actually look like. And it's not just a problem for the bigger girls too. Like every small girl is not a Coke bottle shape. Every person who is technically the right size, let me get big. Let me make me big. Every person who is technically the right size is not, oh, it's 7 o'clock already. I might have to step away for a second to do something real quick. I hear you, girl. Um, I'll be there. I'll be there. Just give me a minute to get myself together. Um, every person that is a smaller size technically is not the shape that people want. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different things when it comes to bodies that are going on that it's just like it's kind of pointless to be having these conversations in this way. And so it's just frustrating to me that, but the big person is always the scapegoat, no matter what. You know what I mean? Like a rectangle shaped small person will still come to the most shapely big person and try to flex on them. You get what I'm saying? Because that is the world we're living in. That is the hierarchy. So this is what I'm going to do. So she came right on time. Some plus size models don't be having. Yeah. So this is what I'm going to do. Now I'm thinking about what I'm going to do, because what do I have to show y'all next? Not that. Oh, I also want to, I'll show y'all that later. I guess we could do that in the after show. There's some mess, a little bit of single mom mess. It's aesthetic mess too, but still. There's also something I want to show you really quickly. Hold on, I'm like, shush. I didn't ask you. Calm down. Sorry, I'm going to play this and then I'm going to step away for a second. It's only like a minute or something. So when I step away, I'm going to play this and I'm going to sit here while this plays. And then when I step away, like it's literally going to be y'all kind of talking to yourselves. I'm trying to figure out what I have time for. So pardon me while I get my life together. I'm going to share the screen. Share the screen. Can I switch what I'm sharing? No, I don't want to copy the invite link.
Well, listen, you're born naked and the rest is drag. Everybody
That's right.
Everybody is playing a role. Everyone. You know, when you get out of the shower, you put on your drag, right? So here's the thing. Art doesn't have to explain itself. Drag is art. Here's the thing. Drag pokes fun at that stage play that I was talking about earlier, the roles that we play. It's there to remind you, do not take yourself too seriously.
Yes.
Don't take yourself too seriously. Now, there are things that you should take seriously.
Yeah.
You take kindness seriously, you take love seriously, you take sweetness seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. And the people who want to go up against all that are afraid of our light, of our laughter, of our joy, of our dancing, our music. That is the antidote to all of this negativity. Our biggest tool in fighting all that is our love and our joy. So do more of that. Well, listen.
Isn't that amazing? Now, mind you, I remember RuPaul saying that a long time ago, like somewhere else. And I looked it up. So this is like a newer thing. So this is clearly something that he said, you know, over the years, a mantra he lives by. But I've heard him say that before, and that kept coming up to me when we were having these conversations about this whole subject. Is like this idea of judging this lady because she did not choose to perform this way in that moment, or judging a lady because through that lady, that statue, you're judging women who do that because that's the sentiment. Women like that give us a bad name. Women like that are making us look bad and this and that and the other. This is all some bullshit. I do this when I like it. And because I like it, because I like to do it. I learned to do it in this way because I enjoyed it, because I saw artistry in it and skill and all of that. That's why I do it. I don't do it because, oh, people are going to be. That's why I think I was talking in the Discord with people about how I feel bad because they have kind of gotten in my head about the bonnet thing. Like, I won't wear a bonnet literally just up the street to drop my daughter off or pick my daughter up from school. I'll literally swap out a bonnet and throw on a hat or a scarf or something. But anyway, I'm going to take a second, take like a minute or two to go and run my baby's bath. So I'll be back. Give me like 2 to 5 minutes. Okay? Okay. Okay, I'm back. All right. So, yeah. Sorry, guys. Wasn't that amazing? That not the break, but what RuPaul said. Um, yeah, like I said, I heard him say that a long time ago. I'm talking like maybe a decade or more ago. And that always stuck with me because it's like, of course, like, and that makes me think of, especially once I got my cosmetology license and I actually started working in the beauty industry, I was looking around and I was just kind of like, you know what? I don't have to do all of that. You know what I mean? If I know how to make the magic, I can make the magic. I can make it for other people. I can make it for myself. But I got to a point where, especially once I kind of like perfected makeup for myself, for my own face in the way that I liked, I was just like, I don't want to do this every day. And I also don't want people expecting all of this of me every day, because I'm just not that kind of person. I'm not a perfect hair, baby hairs, every hair in place kind of person. Even when I do this stuff, like I have to have hair that looks kind of lived in. I guess I'm more like a Diana Ross type, with like it has to be a little messy or whatever, because it's not going to be it's not going to be slick and straight. First of all, because I'm black. I ain't got no kind of baby hairs. My hair is full grown and negroid. Okay. So it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. And I'm not going to damage my hair, trying to make sure it's bone straight or whatever. It's just not going to happen. It needs to be closer to my natural state for me. And it works for me. You know what I mean? And that's nothing against the girlies that can do it. Again, I have a high admiration for people that have that pinpoint precision when it comes to their look. But it's not necessary. Like it's beautiful and it's great. Again, if that's what you like, and if this is an expression of your authentic feeling of yourself, then cool. That's what, drag is. People get to put on their persona. So and mind you, I have an LLC. I had established it in like 2016 for my hair and makeup services. It's called Minx Beauty. And the tagline was fun, flirty, bold. And the mission was like, I help women communicate the facets of their personality at will, because I believe we're multifaceted beings. We're not just any one particular thing. We have so many, we contain multitudes, right? And sometimes you might see me and I'm giving, spring goddess realness, and another time I might be giving you vamp glam, and another time I might be giving you the church mother, like depending on what's going, because it's all drag. And there's a different kind of drag for different kinds of occasions. You know what I mean? They getting on B. Taylor right now, but she knew she shouldn't wear them daggone shorts. I don't know what, because you put a big oversized blazer on something does not, like, it's a place and a time. And we're going to talk about place and time later. We will talk about place and time later. I'm getting ahead of myself. But that being said, we're actually going to watch something together. And I will shout out to Concerned for dropping this in Themis' server earlier, because this is what motivated me to want to do this particular live stream today. So everyone say thank you, Concerned, because I started watching it just out of curiosity, and I loved it so much that I wanted to watch it. But let me read some of these comments that I had pinned from earlier before we get started. We're viewing ourselves through the eyes of white people. Yes, we have to change that. It's absolutely fully I'm talking about specifically Misogynoir. It's fully Misogynoir. And I'll tie it in. I think I did earlier, but we're probably going to get a little bit deeper into exactly how deep that runs later. Let me see what else I pinned. Yolanda is coming in hot with the wisdom, okay? He had to have sculpted this from somewhere. It may have been a series of different images put together to create this one statue, but this good of a sculptor didn't just come out of thin air. Yeah, no, he said it's stuff he's seen in real life, but it was his interpretation of things that he had seen and witnessed in real life. And for him, that was just, the average, everyday Black woman, and that should be celebrated. It's a bronze statue, so the skin tone is not known. Yeah. I disagree with level of single mom unless you can show me where you're roasting the fashion of statues of the men with triangle hats. Or shut up about this. Also, people act like this is the first and the last sculpture of a Black woman. Listen. First of all, okay, let's get into it. I've seen white women in my neighborhood wearing, but I was talking about that on the thing. I was talking about that. Mind you, and people was like, oh, we don't care what white people are doing. But you're sitting here talking about the statue in comparison to what you believe white people have. And that's my problem too. Like, even with the conversation about Kamala Harris and what people are doing or not doing for Black people when they get into the office of the president of the United States. This idea that, oh, well, this group got this and this from the government. This group got this and this group got that. And this group gets, when they talk about them, because he was saying, like, this guy was saying, when they talk about them and stuff for them, they don't lump other people into it. It can just be for Native Americans. It can just be for Jewish people. You know what I mean? But when they talk about stuff for Black people, it has to be for all people. And I'm just like, first of all, typically, yes, fine, fair enough, right? But if this is the thing about white people being in control and you feel like they shouldn't be, and you feel like we are, because one of the things he was like saying about me, I guess that I was like white identified or whatever. But isn't this idea that only white people can bestow the things that they bestow to others? Like, why are you expecting people that you feel like are your mortal enemies to bestow anything upon you if you feel like they hate you? And you're expecting them to elect someone, not just someone, but someone who looks like you to come in and up in all of this stuff that we all agree was established to keep us down. You think they're really going to put someone in there that's saying, oh yeah, I'm coming here to everything that is set up for white people, it's for Black people now. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. And I know that it's not fair. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it is desirable. But realistically speaking, okay, they create this endowment or whatever for everyone, you know, with Black people at the forefront of it, but it's for everyone. Don't we get a shot? It's one more shot, 2 more shots, 5 more shots, 10 more shots, then no initiatives, no, charity, no nothing. Because that's what we're dealing with now. So you'd rather have nothing so that other people can't have something while we're having something. That's the logic. That's the logic. So let's see. She said, there it is. Wearing, that's what I was trying to say, like wearing bonnets. And I'm not saying it like, oh, we should all want to wear. I'm not saying we should all want to wear bonnets. I'm not saying we should all want to be fat. I'm not saying that all of us need to do it, but that's the thing. All of us don't need to be doing the same thing. All of us don't need to be doing the same thing. Some of us can do this, and some of us can do that. And some of us can do something completely different. And if you are not doing this thing that you don't like, why does it bother you that this other person is doing this thing? I wish I would go, I'm not bothered. Now, I will say there are some girls and women who like can't do this, right? Or think they can't do this, that hate on women who can and do this, right? There are some women who we see it, again, we're going to get to this later, with Cassie and everything, who hate on the women that they feel like are able to benefit from some level of this. And so therefore, if something bad happens to them, they're ready to throw them, rake them across the coals. They're ready to discount them. They're ready to favor the abuser of them over them because of how they feel about that disparity between what they think this gets them that they don't have access to. That is a very real thing. But in a general sense, girl, if you look good, I'm going to be like, yes, from across the room, in my bonnet, in my scarf, in my yoga pants, whatever. And if and when, the event happens that I feel like I need to do this, I'll come out the next day and look just like this. It doesn't matter. It's all based on how I feel, right? It's all based on how I feel, what I feel like doing. So anyway, that was a rant. We're going to watch this thing because I really liked it, and it is what is she? It says a philosopher. So this is called Being Fat is Not Amoral, because it is a moral judgment that people are making on fat people, that it was a moral judgment that people were making. Hey, I did not ask you to talk yet. Okay. it is a moral judgment that people are. Why do I feel like, are y'all still talking? Let me hide this. Are y'all still talking? Because I don't see any new. I don't see any new. Okay, yes, y'all are talking. Okay. Let me close this. We're going to watch this thing, and then we can do some commentary maybe later after that, chit and chat amongst each other. So let me add this. How you guys doing? How am I doing so far? Are you following? Is it too much? Am I all over the place? Like, let me know, because I wanted this to be thorough. Like, I didn't want to leave anything on the table. I wanted to hit all the daggone points, because it's just, there's so much here, right? There's so much here. Okay. So we're going to watch these white people talk about this in an in-depth way.
Expanded its circle of acceptance to bring in more and more people. And this has happened over and over again. We had the feminist movement, which gave women the right to vote and eventually greater control over their bodies and their lives. We had the civil rights movement, which ended the racist Jim Crow system and pushed America to become something like a full-fledged democracy for the very first time in its history. We've also had the LGBT rights movement and the disability rights movements, both of which have had huge impacts on our society in a relatively short period of time. Americans love a civil rights movement, okay? We love living through it and we love accepting people. But that does not mean that we have conquered bias in this country. Clearly, I mean, just read the news or look at society around you, because we still exhibit bias all the time. And I'll give you an example. Even 3-year-olds know you're not supposed to fucking judge somebody by how they look, but we do all the time. And you are especially open to judgment in our society if you are fat. Some people will assume you're lazy or you're unhealthy, but it's not just microaggressions, okay? If you're fat, doctors are literally less likely to take you seriously when you have an unrelated medical complaint. Fatphobia, for that reason, can literally be a matter of life and death. And in the same way that racism, misogyny, and homophobia are ideologies, systems of ideas and values, so is fatphobia. The difference is, though, that we had sustained campaigns and legislation to limit the power of those ideologies over the people who are being oppressed by them. But fatphobia is still an ideology that we accept and almost endorse in our society. And no, it's not just going to disappear with the wave of an Ozempic wand, even though those drugs have the potential to be very powerful. So we have to ask, what is fatphobia? How deep is it in our society, and what we can do about it? And, we've discussed this subject on the show before with doctors, medical professionals, people like that. But I'm very excited because today on the show, we have a philosopher who is going to help us break down this issue in a brand new way. Now, before we get to that, I just want to remind you that if you want to support the show, you can do so on Patreon. At patreon.com/AdamConover. $5 a month gets you every episode of the show ad-free. You can also join our awesome online community as well. And if you want to come see me on the road, coming up soon, I'm headed to Oklahoma, Brea, California.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So let's jump right into it. What is fatphobia? How deep is it? And Kate, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
So let's jump right into it. What is fatphobia? How deep is it in our society?
I think it's very deep, and the way I define it in my book is the unjust downranking of people who live in larger bodies. So that has a number of dimensions to it. So it is the
This lady's name is Kate Mann, and she is a philosopher. So I just wanted, because we kind of missed that part, I just wanted to put that out there so you know who's talking and why she's talking.
aesthetic downranking, the health downranking, the intellectual downranking, and also moral downranking. So we're seen as unhealthy, lazy, lax, irresponsible, often stupid, and as unattractive. So these negative stereotypes, I think, go.
I'm gonna put my glasses on now. I feel like I can put my glasses on now because the smart people are talking. Okay.
Very deep and are very pernicious for people who I like to just say fat in a non-pejorative way. So like a lot of people in this fat activist tradition, I like to use the word fat as a neutral descriptor of larger bodies.
And, we're jumping right into sort of your a little bit more academic description, but I'd love to know, like, what does that feel like in practice? Like when you talk about that downranking, give me an example of what folks experience.
Well, I have been in my life historically as an adult almost always fat myself. And I'm actually not particularly fat at the moment because bodies are wild and they change in all sorts of ways that are kind of unpredictable.
My body is changing day by day. Every day I wake up, I'm like, I see a photo of myself from 9 months ago and I'm like, what the fuck happened? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very familiar and it's just bodies being bodies. Yeah. It's doing what they do. But yeah, I have felt often in my life really scrutinized. Like when I walk into a room, particularly as someone who is, for better or worse, classified as an intellectual authority figure, as a professor, like I just simply don't belong. Like having a body that's bigger and softer and also more feminine in a very male-coded discipline of philosophy makes me really a kind of bodily anomaly, to seem weird, to kind of stick out in a way that often feels like it's the basis for scorn and feeling derision, feeling people's judgment that I must not be that smart or I must be kind of lazy and not in control of my life in the way that I should be. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff that it kind of accumulated for me in such a way that I eventually felt like I had to tackle these misconceptions.
And I'd love to get even more specific, as you say, you feel scrutinized, et cetera. Do you have any particular, like, specific, stories or examples, not either from your career or any other place that really bring that to light?
Oh yeah, totally. So I remember once I was giving a public lecture, as I often do, and I was very fat at the time. I had a BMI of over 40, which means that you're classified as severely obese or morbidly obese, to use a particularly stigmatizing label. I was also pregnant at the same time. And so that's to say, like, I presented as someone whose body made wasn't what was expected for a professor. And the people who had come to see the lecture at this college that shall remain nameless had come to see a visitor named Kate give a lecture, right? And so I introduced myself as Kate to one of the people in attendance, a professor at this college. And he just kind of didn't grok me clearly as the speaker. Yeah. But not only did he not perceive me to be the speaker, even though he'd come to see a person named Kate give a lecture, he was so taken aback that I was the one giving the talk, that I was Kate Mann, who was meant to be this person coming to share some philosophical insight on a good day anyway, that he took a step back when he was and he looked me up and down. And was just like, you could see him wrestling in his mind with the idea that I was the person who was going to be giving this talk on epistemic authority. And he just couldn't make sense of it in my.
I want to take a moment to stop here because I want to harken back to when the girlies were saying, oh, that the mid white women, the average white woman is not what is represented when people give you white women. You know what I mean? When they're speaking of white women in a general colloquial sense, they're not going to give you the average white woman. But this is an average white woman, an accomplished white woman. They're going through the same stuff we're going through. And so, again, that goes back to the nonsensical nature of this idea that, you recognize that white supremacy exists. You recognize that it is categorically unfair to Black people and is meant to be that way. You recognize it's systemic, and upheld. But you're also expecting it to treat you, or expecting, the people who perpetuate it to somehow switch from treating you badly within it to treating you better, really, truthfully, than the people that supposedly benefit from it, or the secondary people that benefit from it. They benefit from it more than us. I'm not trying to say that they don't benefit from it more than us, but it just doesn't make sense.
Fat and pregnant body.
Wow. I often think about how when I became a TV host for the first time, people started treating me like a TV host immediately, and I had this, I went from being a comedy writer to being the executive producer and host of a television show to being the guy on top, right?
Yeah.
And I remember noticing how quickly people just allowed me to slip into the role and just started treating me the way that they would treat that sort of person, even though I'd never done it before, right? And I remember thinking at the time, oh, not everybody would. I fit the bill, right? I fit the brief. I look like the outline. I go step into the outline in people's minds and it fits me perfectly, and I'm reminded of that because it sounds like you had the opposite experience. You didn't fit the outline in that guy's mind, right?
Exactly.
In a number of ways. And so he didn't know how to treat you with the social respect that he would normally treat somebody in your position, a visiting scholar, right?
Yeah,
literally there in a position of authority, someone who should be shown deference and respect, by anybody associated with the institution.
Or just like a normal handshake and a hello would have been fine. It's so funny. We have a phrase in philosophy for this, like a plausible white guy. People who fail to look like a plausible white guy kind of get this reaction
of technical philosophical term, but I like it.
Yeah, it's just the plausible white guy got the job, or the plausible white guy was, seen as the person to go after for a hire or whatever. And yeah, there is this sense of if you don't fit the mold, especially for people who are not white and not middle class or upper middle class or positively rich, and for people who are fat, there's just a sense that we don't belong and that we won't have anything to offer. And I guess one of the things that has kept me wanting to do what I do is to say bodies of all kinds, every kind, can be the vehicles for minds that do a bunch of different things and have different things to offer the world. So yeah, I kind of have lent into maybe not fitting the mold as a way of saying, why would a body be indicative of the kind of mind within it?
Yeah. I mean, all of us believe that intellectually. Don't judge a book by its cover, right? Oh, no, people.
That's an important point. Like I was watching this, I think I watched it to about like halfway, and I was like, you know what, I'm doing a live on this, like, because I want to discuss it because there were so many things that they hit on, and that was one of the things. This idea that she was saying, oh, well, we have these bodies that may not necessarily fit the mold of what people expect, but we have minds that can do things. And the part that really bothers me about like this current administration and the people who allowed it to come and be able to do what they're trying to do and really looking into what they're trying to do, they do not want people's minds. That's why they're trying to do away with everything to do with education. That's why they're trying to do away with everything to do with people being able to enrich their minds, whatever level they're at, because they want our bodies. They want our labor, our literal labor. They are trying to make this, take us back to the industrial age of, you know, factories and sweatshops and all of those types of things. They do not want people aware and educated enough to A, seek out, B, expect or, you know, require or demand, or D, fight for reasonable living conditions in terms of the type of work that is available to us and that we can do and pay. And all of this, even when you know, they're talking about fit bodies, they don't just want us sitting around because they want to see us beautiful and this and that and the other. They want to send the kids to war, right? And they want the girls making babies, more babies to send to war, to send to factories, to utilize for their enrichment. And we're sitting around worrying about who's looking like America's next top model. Can we get real? It says this country is stereotyping bodies, full figure bodies, while healthy organic food is expensive. Urban, oh girl, she chews. Okay, I really enjoyed no black babies though, right? They do. They want the black babies. They want them in the jails because that's an industry as well. So black babies to go to jail. White babies in the factory. Well, not white, you know. Yeah, they want babies. They have changed the laws in some places so the kids can be as young as like 14 to work in the factories and stuff. This ain't no joke, people. Like y'all, people ain't seeing. They sitting around talking about this bullshit. Like it's real stuff happening right now. It's happening. They are lining us up. It says so we can upgrade to who on the side. Listen, I mean, now we can talk. Maybe not on this stream, but we could talk about the opportunities that is out there right now for black women. If you willing to, you know, and I ain't even talking about doing nothing, but you know what I mean. If you willing to look into some things, because with this megalomaniacal type of mindset, there comes a lot of people that have certain proclivities. Let me get big for this. There's a lot of people that have certain proclivities that could be advantageous. I'm just saying. So people like, this single mother is promoting sex work. They're gonna go crazy on me. Let me put this thing back. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry.
Hot people get so much privilege. Like people feel that way. They feel resentment towards attractive people, honestly, or people who fit a certain mold often. And we recite phrases like "don't judge a book by its cover," but then in practice, we sort of have these like deep assumptions that we apply to each other. So why approach this issue via philosophy, right? A lot of folks in the activism world and the medical world have touched on this. What do you bring to it as a philosopher?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm a moral philosopher specifically, and a lot of what I do is try to debunk the idea that there are certain moral obligations that I don't think exist. So one thing I've done a lot in my previous work on misogyny is say women are often held to these weird standards where we have to be submissive and deferential and kind of deliver service with a smile within patriarchy. And that's bunk. Like, that's not a real moral obligation. Everyone should be treated the same regardless of gender and held to the same obligations. And here there is a very similar thing that goes on with fat people, where we are basically held to be morally obligated not to be fat, to make ourselves thin, or at least to try really, really freaking hard to be thin people. And that if we don't...
I'm just coming off mute to say, really pay attention to this part, because this was one of the parts that made me sit up and perk up, because mind you, she's not even saying anything that we so far, like I only got like halfway through it, but so far she's been saying all the things that we have been saying in the various spaces that we all kind of frequent together, and other things I've seen other people say. But she is a philosopher, like she's a scholar. So that's why I felt like it was pertinent to have her, because sometimes people don't want to listen, and they probably still won't listen to her for all the reasons she's listing. But we know as learned scholars ourselves that it's good to be able to listen to people who are smarter and more accomplished than us.
That moral obligation we're seen as like blameworthy. And so as a philosopher, I wanted to debunk that, partly on the basis of this argument that is very common to give in my discipline, which is ought implies can. So you're only obligated to do something that you can realistically actually pull off. And it turns out that the empirical evidence on weight loss shows that most of us can lose weight temporarily, but the weight doesn't really stay off for the vast majority of people. And so this idea that we're in long-term minute control of how we look in general and our body size in particular, it's just not true. Most people don't have that kind of control. So yeah, I wanted to intervene and say, I just don't think there's morally anything wrong with fat people, and this common sense that we're somehow doing something wrong simply by existing in our bodies, that itself is a moral problem.
Yeah. Before we continue on the moral problem, which I find really interesting, I'll say that I've done plenty of work. I've talked to plenty of, medical professionals about how possible it is to lose weight, and the problems with, even the sort of biggest loser idea of weight loss, and how that weight almost always comes back, that there's like a rubber band effect. And, there are plenty of things one can do to improve one's overall health. Sometimes those have an effect on weight. But I also think that, like, if we look at our own experience, I work out a lot more than I used to, 10 years ago. But I was born with this, pot belly, and I will die with it. You know what I mean? It's not going anywhere. I can sort of work on the margins a little bit. I can be fitter. Yeah. I can be less fit. I can gain. When I quit drinking, I lost 15 pounds, right? And that was a durable change in my life. But the number of durable changes you can make are like not that large, and the effect is not that large. And so, like, in practice, we all know that there are like really strong biological limits on what you can actually do on a personal level. And so let's just accept that as a given for the rest of the conversation.
Great.
What I find really interesting that you said is that it is a moral issue, because of course so many people think, oh, if you're fat, it's your own fault, you should do something about it. I think it's actually a little bit novel for you just to point out to me, oh, we do, without even thinking about it, treat it as an issue of morality. Like it's about goodness and right and wrong, not just about you could or you should, but like you're morally obligated to, and there.
So that's where we're hitting on with this whole conversation of like, oh, this is a bad representation of Black women. Why? What does it say? Oh, now she's sloppy. She's this and that. Mind you, we went over, we zoomed in. She was not sloppy. Her t-shirt was as wrinkle-free as a t-shirt should be. Everything was in place. We didn't see any cracks. We didn't see any labias. We didn't see any nipples or areolas. We didn't see anything that, we reasonably should not see when out amongst the public in public. But yet and still this idea that somehow she was offensive, that image in and of itself was offensive to the eye and to the observers.
There's something wrong with you if you don't, you have sinned.
Yeah,
if you do
exactly.
not, like, it's moral. So talk more about why do we treat it that way?
Yeah, I mean, there's something really weird and insidious for me as someone who, tries to think about what moral obligations are real and what ones are false, that every time I went on a diet, and I've been on countless diets of every type and variation, I would feel virtuous, like I was being a good person. And I mean, that makes so little sense, because nowadays we usually think that being moral is about helping other people and doing something good for other people.
And that's why what she just said, like she was saying when she was dieting, she felt like some people are listen when you go, I'm gonna show you something later. I mean, it's something that you can show on thing, but I'm gonna show you something later. Like these girls acting crazy. You know what I mean? It's not, we can have conversations about time and place, right? But that statue and Wumi's fine ass, there was nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? This stuff I'm gonna show you later, we gonna talk, but it was nothing wrong with them. But yeah, this idea of, she was saying when she was dieting and things, she felt virtuous. You know what I mean? She felt like a more moral person. Like she felt the way these people that are talking in this way about these things feel like people should feel. If you are not striving towards or existing in this ideal body type, body size, body weight, whatever presentation, you should be striving toward it. You should never be comfortable as you happen to be in a given moment, because you should always be striving toward the ideal. And that's what these women were saying, you know, with the comments that Wake Up was showing us on her live streams and this and that and the other. Like in detail, you see this very thing that she's talking about, where people were moralizing to the point where they were lying and saying they had never seen behavior exhibited in the real world that she was demonstrating by holding her hands on her hips and just standing there with her hands on her hips. They had never seen anyone do that, you know, just outside of something aggressive or negative or, you know, ugh.
And also the sentient creatures, like making the world a better place is really what morality is about. So I think there are these deep religious sources of the idea that our bodies are this site for kind of purity and morality, and that there is a way that we treat our bodies that will be subject to moral blame and condemnation if we're not like in tight control of how our bodies look as a result supposedly of eating habits, which just belies the fact that you just gave, that for most of us, we kind of have a set point weight. And for most of us, that set point is a result, most of all, of genetics. And that weight is almost as heritable as height. So the amount of variation we find in the human population when it comes to weight, that is about 70% due to genetics. And to put that in perspective, for height, it's 80%. So height is not regarded as something we can control, but weight is almost as heritable.
Well, and the other piece of height is what, environment, nutrition, and that sort of thing, right? Like,
which we also can't control, and also affects weight. So the fact that someone is like not able to get a lot of sleep and doesn't have access to leisure spaces and fresh foods and whatnot, that does have an effect plausibly on some people's bodies.
The systemic generational poverty of it all. They're talking the systemic generational poverty of it all. You're not able to get good sleep. You're not able to get, you know, the freshest, most nutritious food. High stress levels. All of these things contribute to the already mountain of biological fact, because they love to talk about biology when it's about sleeping around and bullshit, right? But the biological realities of the human body and its capability and its preset, you know, default states, and how all of this stuff affects it. And she's going to talk about it, but I think I talked about it with Wake Up before, about how my body, I have altered my body, you know, in ways that would have been approved by these people before. And but it took a lot. It took so much. She says it later on in the thing. It took so much bandwidth from me. I had so much preparation. You know what I mean? So much willpower of, oh, I'm going to eat this. I'm not going to eat this. You know what I mean? I'm not going to allow myself to eat these things that I have a taste for, or I'm going to eat at these certain times where I'm not necessarily hungry, or what. Like there's so much that I have to adjust and conform to that is not inherent to my natural state of being. I have to do that if I want to make those changes. It's not worth all that for me. I'm not an unhealthy person. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing if it's like, oh, you're going to die if this doesn't. Okay, cool. I need to do that, right? But in a general sense, the health issue I had only started, I'm about to be 40. It only started like 2 years ago. And that was due to stress. Up until then, I have never had any kind of problems with blood pressure, heart condition, any kind of diabetes, any kind of anything. I've always, what they say, healthy as a horse. And I've been overweight since like puberty. maybe a little bit. I'm gonna say since like 5th grade. You so like puberty. I've been overweight most of my life, all of my adult life.
Size, and it's also not something that they have a lot of control over because we live in a deeply segregated and unjust society where people have differential access to those kinds of goods and resources.
Yeah, and then of course the food environment that we have built for ourselves as a society with I don't need to get into that, but we all have our opinions about it. But certainly that's had an effect on people as well, and it's not something that is easily escaped. We can't escape the food infrastructure that we live within simply by making better choices when there aren't better choices available, as there aren't to so many.
Yeah.
Folks, we've been talking on the show lately about political polarization in America, how we're stuck in our bubbles, and about how it's so hard. Where do you feel that comes from? And just talk more about how fatness connects to uncleanliness.
That's actually a brilliant question because there's a really concrete mechanism that makes us confuse these things without our kind of rationally endorsing this, which is that the way a particular emotion works, disgust, is that if we feel disgusted by something because it's dirty or it's contaminated or we think it will make us sick, like a food, that disgust, once it's aroused in the body, easily becomes confused with moral disgust. So there is a very short route from feeling grossed out by something to feeling morally judgmental about it. And that is irrational. It often is irrational in that we don't endorse it rationally. And it has nothing to do with like an argument or even a particular cultural tradition oftentimes. It's just that when we feel visceral disgust, that translates into being morally judgmental about things in ways that are really weird. So there's this famous experiment where researchers sat participants at this dirty, disgusting desk where there were like used Kleenexes and like an old disgusting pizza box and and they sprayed a gross smell in one iteration.
Can I just say, this is when research is fun, right? Because like you're a grad student and then your supervisor's like, hey, you got to make a disgusting desk. Just think of every way you can to make this desk gross. That's a pretty fun Wednesday.
I mean, it really was. They had this other version of the experiment where they showed participants a picture of a disgusting toilet. Like, they really got creative. But anyway, so then they gave people a scenario where someone was behaving in a completely innocent way. So it was actually like a scenario about a student council person trying to bring up discussions of widespread mutual interest at meetings, which is totally fine to do morally. Like, he was trying to have...
When it comes to this comment, yes, I believe I did see... I have seen a couple different kinds of content where they were basically saying like in times of stress and strain within the country and people pushing toward, that's when you see people pushing towards traditional values. And that's when you'll see like all these kind of constricting constraints that people want on the general public and on the standards and like this cracking down because it's thought that the chaos we're experiencing comes from a lack of structure and all of that. Basically patriarchy.
Good discussions. And people said about this council person, oh, I don't know what he's up to, but it just seems wrong. This guy just seems so weird and disgusting. He seems like a popularity-seeking snob. Like they had all these completely spurious judgments about, again, this completely benign, innocent behavior just because their visceral disgust mechanisms got triggered. And I think exactly the same thing happens to fat people. So fat people trigger oftentimes visceral disgust, especially if they're portrayed in media like as headless fatties, as Charlotte Cooper puts it. Like they're just like big bodies that are eating too much and not walking the right way we think they should walk and enable a society. And that visceral disgust makes people reach for moral explanations why that person must have done something wrong. Does that make sense? Like there's just this very concrete way in which we're confusing these visceral reactions with moral reactions and coming to have these judgments that are not reflective of rational argumentation. They're not reflective of real values we hold. They're just based on kind of these very primitive bodily reactions to images or people that are wrongly portrayed as disgusting.
What you're saying, just so many things in human society are clicking into place for me while you're saying it. I'm thinking about how, you know, sort of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. types, like people who are like, I take care of my body, how sort of moralistically they speak to everybody else. Oh, well, I don't do that. Oh, I don't put that in my body. Oh, well, I work out. Oh, well, I do this, right? And like...
Can you? Okay. Did he say Robert F. Kennedy talk about he take care of his body? The crackhead? He can't even... Like his whole system is in jeopardy right now. He is not fully functioning human being. But he's... Let me shut up.
It's a sense of superiority, a sense of judgment of other people. And like, that's what is going on there. It's the confusion of, you know, they are treating themselves with a sense of purity other people are unclean and there's a moral judgment attached to that to them. And I'm also thinking about how many religions end up having moral sort of codes around like food preparation or, other bodily things, sort of that kind of moral judgment becoming codified in, a number of commandments, say.
And it happens really easily for the following reason. So disgust is a weird emotion because once one person shows it towards a particular thing, other people come to share that emotion. And that made evolutionary sense because like if there's a contaminated food source or a pathogen, it's good that one person getting grossed out by a food can kind of communicate just through their bodies that that food is not good to consume.
Right.
And so disgust, if one person shows disgust towards a particular kind of person or a particular kind of even like practice or policy or kind food that you might consume, other people will often come to share that disgusted response. And that's how these social norms that are often, very big part of religion, very big part of purity culture, and a very big part, I think, too, of secular culture, they get going quickly and they stick. Because the other thing about disgust worth knowing is it's very hard to eradicate. Once you feel it, like if you've ever had the experience of like consuming a food and then getting sick afterwards, that is one-shot conditioning.
Right.
You'll often be disgusted by it for the rest of your life.
Right. Yeah, I can never have a White Russian ever again because of what happened to me in college,
Guava juice for me, yeah.
Guava juice?
I know. I mean, that's not like a huge source of nutrition.
She good and crazy. I just had it was one of them Welch's half gallons of guava pineapple. I wish I. Oh, you know what? I'm about to ask my daughter to bring me some what's that ginseng tea?
To knock out life.
Luckily you don't encounter it that often, but still, it like becomes deeply rooted. So why do you think that if we're having that immediate bodily reaction of disgust, why do people have that when simply being near that person? Is there something natural about that feeling? Or, I mean, you also said it's caused by depictions in the media, right? And So
there, I think the answer is actually racism. So there's this really important natural question that you just brought up of, well, why do we find fat bodies more disgusting? Because they're just bodies. People, in my view, just come in different shapes and sizes. Bodies not only change, they're very various. And why are we like prone to be disgusted towards the fatter ones? And what I think the sociologist Sabrina Strings has shown is that fat phobia is this very recent historical bias. So compare it to misogyny, which is about as old as agriculture, and no one even knows where it comes from because it's just so old. Fat phobia is like basically a kind of 18th century invention, at least in its modern form. Like, it's not to say that everyone has always been totally cool about fat bodies, but there was a lot less judgment about them, and often to positive judgments that would attach, especially to white women who were fat. And you see this in like 16th century art, where you often have like bigger, fleshier body, like, prototypically like a Rubens painting, where the body is actually being appreciated for being a body that like mine has been like historically. And that shifted in the 18th century. And what String shows is that what happened was racist white colonists had to find a way to separate out white bodies from the black bodies who were being enslaved so brutally and in ever burgeoning numbers in the transatlantic slave trade in the 18th century onwards. And the way they did that was to say, purely from the armchair, that black bodies were fatter. Now, this is not based on like observation. Often these were just garbage scientists who had never been to the relevant parts of Africa. But it was a pretext for saying white bodies and black bodies are radically different. And black bodies are more quote unquote primitive and animalistic, closer to nature, and are kind of suitable for being put to work because they're kind of so fat and sturdy. And so basically what happened was, it wasn't that fatness was seen as bad and then associated with blackness.
So now tell me how these comments that people are making is not feeding into this thing that was pushed onto us and then into us about the black body and what it means to look other than what these same people, I'm talking about the black people that's talking about this, specifically the women and stuff, are saying that they know the white women don't look like that either. But because white women are, the iconography of a white woman is this, it's felt and small and slender. They want that same lie being perpetuated basically for us.
It went the other way historically. Blackness was associated with fatness, and that's when fatness began to seem disgusting to people. So it comes from anti-black racism.
And how do we know this? I mean, does it show up in literature, or are there any examples of how we know this?
Yeah, so Strings' book, which I really recommend to folks, it's called Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia, documents like this shift in the discourse. And you see it in encyclopedias, you see it in letters, you see it in the way that particular bodies, like the so-called Hottentot Venus, were depicted. shifting at this time where suddenly there was this emphasis on the fat black body and fat black female bodies, such as that of Sarah Baartman, the real name of the woman who was enslaved and called the Hottentot Venus and displayed as like almost a circus freak in London and Paris during this period. People began to see that kind of body as like worthy of gawking at in a disgusted way, but also kind of fascinating in that way. Disgust can often make us fascinated with particular things that are deemed disgusting, but also repelled by them. So it's a kind of push-pull emotion where we're drawn to the disgusting object. We kind of want to gawk at it, but we don't want to tangle with it. And that's actually very similar to the way fat bodies today are often seen as, worth searching for in pornography. So fat bodies are a very common search term in pornography.
Yeah.
But fat women who are searched for are often not deemed suitable partners for.
Shout out to Amara. Shout out to Amara Real for clocking the T. Oh, I was talking about the bigger one, but I'll take that. Thank you. Shout out to Amara Real for clocking that T. Okay, because they want the kids. Okay, they want them, but they want to play like they don't because of all of this.
Dating and marriage and so on. So it's like an attraction, but also a disgust. It's like push-pull.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that the story that you're telling is like, has causal weight and is like part of the story. I guess I'm like, I'm searching also for more, right? I mean, racism.
Yeah, there's another piece of it. Do you want the other piece?
Please.
It's class.
Oh, yes.
So this is what I call the harder, better fallacy, which is we have this idea that's kind of enshrined in, again, like religious thought, cultural practices, that if something is hard to do, then it's morally superior. Now, historically, before the advent of easy access to calorically dense foods, it was actually hard to get a fatter body. It cost more money, and thus fatness was a sign of kind of wealth and prosperity. So yeah, the harder thing to achieve, which was being a kind of plump woman, because food was scarcer and there wasn't as much sugar and access to this calorically dense food, that was seen as the good way to be, the cool way to be, because it was a sign of being high class. Now that has reversed. And so in a food environment where calories are abundant and there's very little in the way of absolute food scarcity, so of course there's a lot of deprivation, but it's often deprivation of fresh foods in, say, the Anglo-American context, rather than just sheer caloric deprivation. What you find is that people are now drawn to bodies that are harder to achieve, that are the advent of diet, exercise, expensive meal kits, Peloton bikes, and all of these forms of investment, now Ozempic too, that are very much more accessible to wealthier people. So it's that harder, better thing, the thinner, the harder, and thus the better in our eyes.
So now we're back to that idea of just like, you in your regular body, you should be striving. If you don't already have, mind you, and what's funny to me is having that conversation basically where the sentiment is basically, if you're fat, you need to be trying to get thin or fit. That's the dog whistle term, but they mean thin because, and she's going to talk about it. There are plenty of bigger bodies that are healthy. When they go to the doctor and they get all the tests and everything, they're healthy. They're moving. They're able to do so many things. And thank God, for more the push for inclusivity we did have for a while, because we got to see bigger bodies doing things. We got to see bigger bodies dancing. We got to see bigger bodies being active, because the propaganda says that a bigger person in a bigger body isn't healthy. They don't move. They spend all day eating and sitting and sleeping. Don't judge me. But like I said, I do a lot of walking and stuff like that, but I do like to just recline a lot. But I'm getting older. But this idea that if you're fat, it's because you are actually doing more things to be fat. It isn't because you just find yourself to be fat in the ways that you are any other person relates in the world. Like there's this belief system that every fat person is living the same life that you see on like My 600-Pound Life. So when if the average person is between a 14 and a 16, and the average person is probably just eating, like any other American is eating, the assumption, if you are 170 pounds to anywhere between like 170 pounds to like 300, 500, 600 pounds, that you must be doing what the people are doing on My 600-Pound Life. You must be just sitting around and inhaling whole pizzas and endless fried chicken and, drinking 2-liter bottles of soda like they're 20 ounce. That's the assumption of just seeing someone who is just average fat.
Okay, that really completes the puzzle for me. Look, the advent of slavery and the specific racism that came along with it explains so many things in our culture. And I believe that this is one of them, but I was like, I also feel like there must be more going on than just that. But I think the combination of these forces together really makes it add up to me, especially because, look, I said I work out more than I did 10 years ago. Part of that is because I can now afford to work with a trainer, which I was not able to before. And I now set my own schedule, whereas I did not before. And so I have, twice a week, I go work out at 10 a.m. where most people aren't able to. And I'm able to shop at the fancy grocery store and et cetera. I feel very lucky to be able to do those things. I'm also very aware while I do them, not everybody can. And that, like, totally. I could look at that and say, oh, well, I'm able to do the hard thing because I'm so great and successful and hardworking. But I have a little bit more awareness than that of how lucky I am in this life. And so instead I see it as being, oh, this is something that I'm fortunate to be able to do.
And I mean, me too. Like, I'm thinner than I would be now because I get a lot of sleep. So one thing that is like underestimated in all of this is it's not just food and exercise, although that's part of the picture that determines body makeup. A lot of it is also just random aging, changing our, like, way our bodies are constituted at any given time. But people who are sleep deprived are often like really much hungrier, crave particular kinds of food.
I experience this myself. When I am sleep deprived, I'm ravenously hungry the next day. Like, if I get 2 hours of sleep, I am like, I have to get up early and go to the airport, right? And I got like 3 hours of sleep. That is when I'm like, yeah, I'm having a fucking Five Guys breakfast in the airport terminal.
Exactly.
Right? I don't give a shit. I need to eat it.
And now compare someone who works 3 jobs, is working minimum wage, doesn't have access to a lot of pleasures and comforts, and so might be looking for like a relatively cheap source of like a break, a relief, something like fun.
Sorry, the background was looking crazy. I really love the fact that she said this because I do come from a family that has diabetes. Multiple people in my family, like my direct family, my direct lineage, have diabetes. I know, like, one of my family members, he's been long gone now, but I remember watching him he knew he had diabetes, and he would go on these binges of just eating a bunch of candy and stuff. But we also have a history of depression and things in my family. And as I grew older, like, that always kind of stuck with me. And I always felt like, because I'm someone who believes in like these energetic and spiritual connection, like the body keeps the score type of thing between our emotions and how that manifests in our bodies and things like that. So to me, I always felt like, and I will go through this if I'm dealing with in my life a lack of sweetness. Can y'all see me? Why can't y'all see me? Let me see. Oh, let me look on here. Sorry. I know y'all can hear me, but I don't know if y'all can see me. I'm trying to see if y'all can see me. I'm looking at okay, y'all can't see me. Sorry. It's looking weird on my computer screen. But I felt like it had to do with a lack of sweetness. So there are times in my life when I was like especially depressed and I found myself just drinking a whole bunch of juice. You know what I mean? Or just having to have the same sweet snacks every day or whatever. And I do recognize the connection of, well, I can't do these things financially. I can't go to spas, I can't go on trips, I can't take time off of work, whatever it is, but I can have, these cookies that I like, and I can, you said it's out of focus. Yeah, I don't know what to do on that. I'm looking at it now. It looks like it's in focus. See? Hold on. See? It looks good on here. I mean, I guess if it's out of focus for y'all. There's a delay. So I'm looking at what it says. I hope it's better. Let me know. Is it better now? It's fine. Okay. But yeah, like, I recognize that it is a thing of like, she said, I love me a sweet snack regardless. I mean, yes, it's not like when everything's fine, I don't eat anything sweet, but I do recognize, like, when I'm particularly in conflict emotionally or just in unease, you know, and I mean, especially if I don't necessarily know or I don't feel like I have a means of accomplishing or overcoming whatever the problem for me may be. She said, right now I've got cookies and cream ice. Girl, I got some cappuccino crisp downstairs. But I will find myself soothing that through food, because that is, what else are we going to do? You know what I mean? Like, we can't say, oh, you know, things aren't going well, let me get away to my beach house in Guatemala. You know what I mean? Like, no, we're stuck here and I gotta go to work tomorrow and I gotta deal with these kids and my baby father is tripping and, you know, all the things. So yeah, I thought that was important. Summer says that's what happened to me in grad school. I developed a habit of unhealthy eating when I felt out of control of my life. Yes. So in that sense, and I do want to bring attention to the fact that that was what a lot of the people that were against the statue and stuff were saying, that like it sends the message that we as a people are depressed, that we as a people are, you know, feeling out of control. Like, that's not lost on me, that is a valid feeling and a valid sentiment, you know, and it is rooted in fact and experience for a lot of us. But that's just the reality. Does that mean because we are experiencing it, you know, that goes back to that thing of like, oh, well, if you're having a bad time of it, then even though we know all of this stuff is systemic and we'll tout the systemic nature of all these things depending on what we're talking about, but when it comes to this thing, oh, you're the failure. You know what I mean? And you need to be better and you need to be, you know, go to the back until you can get it together. It just, that doesn't work. That's not okay. Everybody emotionally eats. I eat whatever. Life's too short for that. I live for pizza. I eat emotionally. I got strawberry shortcake ice cream in the freezer. Listen, I keeps me something in, even if I don't, I'll have ice cream in the freezer for months and not touch it. Now my grandma might eat it all up if I leave it there too long. She said I had a box of marshmallows. Listen, I have a little snack stashes around too. Can I just be greedy? Can I? Can't we?
And yeah, that will contribute to being in a phase of life, or maybe even for a lifetime, having more disposition to go after like the candy bar rather than the, I don't know, overpriced Air One snacks that you have access to and I have access to the Ithaca equivalent. So yeah, there's just a level of class privilege that makes certain bodies read as rich and privileged in a way that does reflect the social structures and the accessibility of certain goods, that makes them also aesthetically kind of prestigious.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of it.
And I think that's a great point that you raised, because we talked earlier about the limited effect that personal choices can make on our weight, which we've talked about extensively. But I think we don't talk often enough about how the structure of a society means that certain people are also not able to make the good choices that are available to you, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of people who have privilege and money and time and good sleep who still don't get good sleep, and they don't feel like they have the option of doing all these things, but they don't. But there's far more people who, just because they work so many jobs, they make so little money, they have so little time, they're not able in their lives to do these things.
Yeah, and look, I want to make it clear, I think a bigger factor is still genetics.
Yes.
Like, I think the evidence points to the fact that most of us have a certain body type, you know, and also certain ways in which fat accumulates. Like you talked about, you know, for you, it sounds like, you know, fat accumulates more in like the abdominal region. For me, it's like hips and butt. And, you know, that's like the kind of shape that I was born with, or rather had since puberty at least.
So you haven't seen my hips and butt yet, all right? So I'm sitting down, but...
Well, same. But, you know, that kind of thing I think is really genetically determined. But then, yes, at the edges, there are some people who, through the advent of like huge amounts of time, money, effort, bandwidth, and also, yeah, that sheer degree of privilege, can make themselves thinner than they otherwise would be in ways that are just simply unsustainable for the vast majority of Americans, in ways that, yeah, really mean that very thin bodies in particular, and this is more true than ever with the advent of GLP-1 receptor agonists like Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro and so on, those bodies are coded as super wealthy, super elite, and thus the kinds of bodies we aspire to, because they signal wealth. And we always like the bodies that signal wealth. It's just that used to be fat bodies and now it's very thin bodies.
I imagine some people listening might say that, well, another reason we might have that reaction to fat bodies is because they signify health, right? Or lack of health. And that we have that a disgust reaction or a more...
So now from now on, I'm gonna tell people I'm a traditional woman. I have a traditional body. Okay. Because this body is more traditional than the one you thinking of. Okay, this body is centuries worth of worth of juice. Okay, we're the original. Okay.
Moral reaction for that reason. And I just want to voice that because some people might be thinking
Yeah,
it.
it's a
And
great
what would you say to
question.
it?
So the relationship between weight and health is complicated, but one immediate problem with that understandable question is that on average, underweight bodies have real health problems. And yet they're often the bodies that we hold up as the healthiest in ways that don't reflect the actual statistics on mortality and morbidity. So the relationship between weight and health basically looks like a U-shaped curve. And one fact that people often find surprising is that the healthiest place to be at in the BMI charts, which are very problematic, have a gross racist history that I can get into later, but let's use them as like a reference point. The healthiest BMI to have in terms of mortality on average is an overweight BMI. So people who have a BMI between 25 and 30, which includes me for the record, we're in the healthiest weight class in terms of overall mortality statistics.
Why is this weight class called overweight? If it's
Exactly.
Sorry, I couldn't get it together. What you say, girl? What you say? And that explains to me. I didn't know that, but that explains why now I'm over that now. I ain't even gonna lie to you. But I think that explains why I was always so healthy. Because I was always overweight. Like I was never not overweight. After I got into puberty and stuff, I was always fine. So, that's some. Take that with you guys when we're in the other places and the girlies start talking. Now you see, that's why you gotta watch people, smart people, talk about things.
Medical researchers and epidemiologists' decisions about what they think people should look like is the answer. It's not to do with overweight where you start to get health problems. That is just not the case. And it's a common misconception.
Like, okay, the healthiest people are the ones right here, but they're not the hottest, so we'll call that overweight. That's basically what's going on?
It's pretty much exactly what's going on. I mean, it started with insurance tables and people trying to estimate the healthiest weights to be at for a very particular class of people, namely white men who were employed and thus looking to buy health insurance at the beginning of the 20th century. But those weight classes were never revised to reflect the fact that when you look at the broader population, there are many classes of people who actually do better at a higher weight. Particularly, Black women do better at a higher weight than any comparable subgroup. And yet they're still subject to the same BMI classifications, which people have thus, I think, fairly argued that they're just unintentionally racist standards. Wow. The other aspect of these tables that people don't always appreciate is that people who are in the moderately obese category, so with a BMI between 30 and 35, have the same mortality risk statistically as people in the normal weight category. So in other words, if you're fat, if you're in the obese category, it takes until you get to a BMI of about 35 or 40, which, again, for the record, I have been at, in order to see any elevated mortality risks. Whereas people who are underweight, you see elevated mortality risks pretty quickly after you get below that BMI cutoff of 18.5.
Look, I think that almost the beginning of your answer was enough. All that was interesting. But like the moment that you said that underweight people also have health risks, and yet we don't have that feeling of revulsion for underweight people, right? We don't see someone who is like, I
want to stay on that for a second. Because the conversation is always, the talk is always health. Let me get big. Let me get big for y'all and talk about this. The talk is always health, right? Whenever they're talking about these things, inevitably somebody's going to say, it's not healthy. You're promoting, unhealthy living, an unhealthy lifestyle. What this lady is explaining to us is that you are actually more likely, and I'm not saying they're telling you that. No, that's a lie. They would rather see anorexics. I'm sure they would rather see a look out amongst all the people of the world and see a sea of anorexic people than to see a bunch of the people that we're seeing, ostensibly, right? But they're saying that the actual risk to your health, to your life, comes from being underweight, not overweight. And from a biological standpoint, just as someone who knows basic biology, that makes sense because the body literally has a mechanism to make you bigger, to store fat, to keep you alive should you not have enough food. So that is consistent because they love biology when they're talking about traditional values and all that other bullshit. But let's since we're talking about logic, the body's logic is be big. And this, I want to be clear because I know people are going to try to take this and say like, oh, you know what? I'm promoting people being comfortable in the body they're in right now, right this second. I am promoting that. I am promoting people loving and appreciating and being happy and feeling worthy in the bodies they're in right here and right now. And yes, most of those bodies that are on the world, on the earth right now, statistically, look more like me than whatever it was these people are imagining that statue should have looked like. That's a fact, Jack. That's the facts.
People who have had cancer or other diseases will say, people go, oh my God, you look great, right? But when they've actually lost weight because of a health issue. And so we don't have that immediate disgust reaction when we see someone who's on an unhealthy part of the chart in one direction. So why do we do it in the other? I think that rebuts the idea that the only reason we have that reaction is because of we have some innate understanding of the health risks of BMI. We clearly don't, because we only have it in one direction.
And, this really affects how people's medical care plays out too. So I open what a chapter is in my book about this by looking at cases where someone had been classified as overweight or even obese and had lost a bunch of weight. And yeah, it turns out they had cancer. So I look at two of these cases, which are unfortunately quite common, where doctors are like, hey, good for you, you're fine, even though the person is experiencing pain or side effects or weird blood test results, and they need treatment because they're losing weight fast, and that is actually a sign of health problems, not a sign that they're doing something right or going in the right direction. And if a doctor does listen to them saying, I'm actually feeling ill, they might still be with us.
Insane. Hey, how much of your personal data do you think is online? It's scary to hear, but it's probably a lot more than you think. Our whole world is online, even if you're not. And that means all human society, or how deep is it? Wired, there has been an uptick in online harassment, identity theft, and even real-life stalking, all because of this easily accessible information. I know we're really dwelling on this disgust reaction, but it is fascinating to me. Is it something that we have the ability to change about ourselves or about human society? Or how deep is it? Because it's one of those problems that become intractable.
It does feel a bit intractable to me. I mean, here's one reason I'm optimistic. So queer folks in the 70s were subject to a huge amount of homophobic disgust. And that really shifted, at least in progressive and liberal circles, through, the 90s and early 2000s. Now, unfortunately, it looks like it's shifting back. So I don't know how permanent that progress has been, unfortunately. But it does look like groups of people who were subject to really horrible and bigoted disgust reactions that are somewhat analogous, people were able to cut through that with rational argument and say, like, who cares about the gender of the person you're sleeping with? Who cares about, including things like your particular sexual practices? None of my business. And that's not a basis for having a bad visceral reaction or a bad moral reaction. We made progress there. Maybe we can make it again when it comes to people in larger bodies. That's what gives me some hope on this score. But you're right, it takes a lot of work and a lot of activism.
That is such a good point, though, that I don't think we have to limit it to progressive circles. I would say across American society, massively less people have a disgust reaction to homosexuality than they used to. If they were to see two men holding hands, two women kissing, right, whatever, if they're to see it, go to a pride parade, right? And when I was growing up in the 90s, a lot of people would be like, ugh, and
same.
Now just objectively less. There's objectively less people feeling that way. Now, that's not to say that other communities aren't experiencing that right now, or that we're seeing a sort of horrifying swing back in the other direction. But I do think that, I suppose it might be good to see if somebody's measured this, if someone has done any work on how people's like immediate disgust reactions as a measure of the population has been to queer people. But I think your point is well taken, that like this is something that clearly we don't just have to accept that there's this deep down disgust reaction that, is part of biology or like innate morality that we can't get around. Like, we are humans and we are rational to at least some degree, and we can change the way that we feel in the structure of human society via rational argument. At least that's what a philosopher should hope to think.
I mean, that's the only reason for doing what I do, right?
Yeah.
And otherwise I would be just completely laboring in vain. And I mean, they have done interesting studies that show, like, it's a mixed bag, because measures of implicit bias show that on all of these categories of bias, including homosexuality, including ethnicity, skin tone, disability, and age, people have been getting less biased, both implicitly and explicitly. But the one category where people were getting worse that they measured, these Harvard researchers, was weight.
Wow.
So that was the one form of implicit bias that was actually on the rise, and it was a form of explicit bias that was decreasing the most slowly when they finished the study in 2016.
Wow.
So yeah, I think that has a lot to do with like stigmatizing and medicalizing and pathologizing fat bodies, and the fact that we haven't seen as much uptake of the amazing activism around this issue that we definitely have, but we haven't seen that kind of really cross into the mainstream in quite the way that we have when it comes to queer folks.
And that's really fascinating, because we live in a society in which more and more people are classified as obese every day, right? More and more people are struggling with their weight. More and more people fall into the category of people who have this bias leveled against them. And yet we are not seeing the sort of cultural turn towards having this conversation in a more productive way. Why do you think that is?
That is a really interesting question, because there's this idea that's very prevalent, and I think it's a myth, that the more contact you have with people who are in some othered group, basically the more tolerant you'll become, the less prejudiced, less bigoted, and so on.
That's not true.
But it's just not true, I think. Look at fat people. We're between 2/3 and 3/4 of the American population, depending on how you slice the data. And yet it looks like as fat people have increased in number, not as dramatically as is often thought, but there has been an uptick in fatness, people have actually gotten more prejudiced. And so what I think that is down to is not all forms of difference and marginalization give rise to political solidarity. So especially when you're fat, and I think a lot of listeners will probably have this reaction, when you're fat, you often feel like there's a thin person waiting to get out, that you're not like truly fat deep in your soul. It's that you don't really identify as fat. You have this temporary problem that the next diet or exercise program or course of GLP-1s will fix. And so you don't think of yourself.
Okay, so now I'm going to get personal with it, right? And I think I was talking in the Discord about this last week. When it comes to me and like weight and this idea of weight loss, that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of averse to, or I've been averse to this idea of losing weight for aesthetic purposes. Because like I said, I've never had health problems. There was a point in time I didn't have any diagnosed health problems. I remember I was working, but I was working on my feet. I was being like a cashier at Ross, and my knees started hurting, but I was standing up all day. And I was walking to work and I was walking from work. So there was reason why, that would happen. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm getting older, because I was in my 30s at that point. And I'm thinking in terms of, I don't want to have to get a knee replacement. I don't know what this pain is. And so I started, actively trying to lose weight. I did keto, and I did lose about 30 pounds or something at that time. And then the pain went away. But what I'm saying is this idea that she's talking about of, oh, there's a skinny person inside me waiting to get out. I didn't like the idea of feeling like the body that I'm in, the body that is truthfully the same body that I'm going to inhabit if I were to lose weight. It's still the same body, but feeling like it's not good enough. And then moving in that energy to change it due to this body. I want to honor my body. Even if I go about the business of trying to slim down, I still want to honor my body. I don't want to be doing it out of a belief that there is something wrong with the body that I'm currently inhabiting. And so this is so true, this idea that this is how they want you to feel. Again, this goes back to this idea of observing that statue and going, yeah, that's not good enough. She's a hot mess because she's presenting in that way. Oh, I'm sorry. And expecting, let me finish the thought, and expecting people who inhabit bodies like that to also agree.
Self is like in this group in a way that is in reality pretty permanent for most of us. And if we exit the group of fat people, it'll be probably more accidentally than deliberately. But they think of themselves, as not really having to commit to a fat politics and a fat solidarity. They think of themselves as like having a personal problem that they should solve as an individual rather than being in community with other folks who are bigger. And that's kind of a big part of why I wrote this book. I want to be in community with, well, everyone who's marginalized, but especially in this context, larger people who I don't want to be fleeing from this category. I want to be saying, we need to be treated better.
You know what that makes me think is why do people treat it as this personal problem? The word that comes to my mind is shame. That people feel shame for being fat. And that shame is an emotion of, I am wrong, something's wrong with me. And I can't tell anybody about it, right? It's my own problem. And it separates you from other people.
That's really insightful. I mean, that's my story. I had imbibed fat activist content at the age of 20 and really gotten the message rationally that this is a form of prejudice. People come in different shapes and sizes. There's not a huge amount you can do about your body type. And really, we should get over this socially. But I didn't use the word fat about myself, despite being at times very fat and always at least recognizably fat, until I had a kid. And that was my impetus for feeling like the huge shame I had felt that it's visceral. It's the internal echo of other people's disgust. Mm-hmm. And what it does is it bows your head, your eyes lower. You want to disappear if you're ashamed. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you even want to unalive.
I hadn't watched it up to this point, but the fact she said bowed head, eyes lowered. Don't I always say that? Bowed, bent, and broken. They want you bowed, bent, and broken. And that could be about anything because it's the same energy that they give you. That's why this is important to the Level Up Single Mom platform, because this is the same type of thing that they'll do to you, but for the reason of being a single mother. And it's that expectation that you are supposed to engage with them in that way. You're supposed to be humble and contrite about the situation and or the body that you are currently inhabiting.
Yourself, like that's what really, really chronic and toxic shame can do to people. And that feeling of like intense shame can be like a real barrier to the political solidarity that I think is lacking around this issue. And yeah, it was, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche, but it was me having a child in 2019 where I finally thought, like, I can't live in this shame-faced way anymore and be perpetually trying to shrink myself. I actually need to lift my head, look other fat folks in the eye and try to form like real solidarity that goes beyond the intellectual and have community with other people who are fat in a way that is a bulwark against shame and is deeply resistant to the shaming of mainstream culture.
Yeah, and you know what that connects to is, you were just talking about, queer liberation over the last 50 years. It connects to pride, right? Like there's
Exactly.
a very clear rhyme there of gay people feeling there's something wrong with me. I'm ashamed. I can't tell anybody the experience of being in the closet versus being proud and saying this is who I am and I am proud of it. And here I am and finding community with other people who are declaring themselves to be proud, even if they're carrying a little shame inside. That declaration is really powerful. It creates the opportunity for solidarity and it tells other people don't be disgusted, right? Because here I got no problem. Why would you have a problem?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like that's where I end up in the book is thinking, look, it's not that pride will do.
What he said is so poignant, and what he said is the main reason why I'm running up down the throats of people that are speaking about this statue and just those types of bodies in that way, because that is the idea. They do, if you are comfortable with you in that state, other people are going to be comfortable with themselves in that state. If we can't have that, and we can't have that, and that is exactly what they do to, LGBTQIA people. That idea of, no, you don't get to feel comfortable in your experience. Because if you're feeling comfortable, if you're being accepted and everything, then more people are going to do that. And then this idea of it's going to catch on. Mind you, the reasons why it's catching on, it has caught on. I would say it's got us in a chokehold, but it's not because, just people are doing it. It's because of the systems in place that you are trying to uphold are creating the conditions, the food, the lack of resources, the lack of space, the lack of time, for people to really be able to dive into that if that's what they want to do. But instead of tackling that, it's the individual person's responsibility and failure. And so therefore, you need to be punished more. So you need to do more of this work we're putting on you. You need to have less so that you're more desperate to need to do what I need you to do so that you can make me millions and you pennies.
Everything to fix this because we also need structural changes. We need like more accommodating spaces and bigger seats and like doctors that aren't prejudiced and whatnot. But I think an analog of like both queer and trans and Black pride movements is such an important part of resisting fatphobia, because it is like a way of saying, I'm rejecting the shame that you've heaped on me via your disgust. I just am what and who I am, and that is valid. And that is a really powerful way to push back and resist that shaming. And I do think has a lot to do with why plausibly we've gotten real progress around queer issues. And until recently, we had real progress on trans issues that was similarly like about resisting a shame that was visited on trans folks unjustly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope that we can, as fat people, kind of emulate and find within our movement that same spirit of like lifting our heads, looking up, looking at each other.
Well, my philosophy about what happened with trans people in this country is just the coming out process is happening at a delayed time, right? That like we went through gay liberation, we went through people coming out in the 80s and 90s, and there's just been a lag with trans acceptance, right? That like my first trans person, my first friend who transitioned 10 years after my first friend came out, and T was in the acronym the whole time, but most people did not become aware of the literal existence of trans people. Didn't see one in person, didn't see someone in the media until more recently. And now we're going through the same cycle again, right? It's like
I say on trans issues, some people say you are less than.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same in a swimsuit who is fat and say like you're glorifying obesity, like become utterly violent, utterly irrational and just kind of fixated on people who, like, let's face it, are not hurting them at all, are not setting back their interests, are just being themselves authentically. And yeah, similarly with fat people, like the very success of the body liberation movement has meant that yes, like we saw some great strides. And at the very same time, some people will like see a person in a swimsuit who is fat and say like, you're glorifying obesity. Like, you know, go on a diet, you're unhealthy, you're going to die. Not because they have any fucking concern for the health of that person, but because they want to insult them. They want to downrank them. They want to say you are less than.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same issue where the more progress we make, the more quickly, the more backlash we get. And the scarier it is to come out during that process.
Yeah. And yet we do want to build that movement.
Yes, we have to.
Yeah. So I'm curious about how do we do that? One facet of this I find really interesting is that, you know, you talked about how, you know, there is an uptick in the number of fat people, but maybe not necessarily in the number of people who label themselves as fat. As you were saying that, I was thinking, well, I also know a lot of people who are not fat, but believe that they are.
No, I want to stick on the first group of people, right? Because there were a lot of them talking smack about that statue. And it reminds me of that lady, I think her name is Takara Williams. She's a comedian. My daughter keeps sending her stuff. I never watched it because that was the first I heard of her was when she got on and she was talking about this other plus size Black woman activist who goes around and like shows how the different stores are not actually size inclusive and this and that and the other. And she started talking smack about her and this and that and the other. Mind you, I think that lady wears like a 2X or a 3X, the one she was talking to. But the woman that was doing the talking wears a 1X. And I believe she got like a BBL, or at the very least, she got like a tummy tuck or something. So now she got that, you know, shape, but she's still big. You could tell they cut some fat off, but the rest is still there, you know. And it's just like this ridiculous notion of thinking that you can align yourself with this thing that is inherently built to diminish you, to diminish all of us. It is ridiculous, the sheer hate Lizzo gets for just being talented and also fat, right? And even now they're just like, oh yeah, because she was saying, oh, you know, you could be happy and you can be okay at your weight, but now she chose to lose. That was another reason why I personally was like, I'm not losing weight because I don't want nobody in my face. I mean, I don't care if people saying like, oh, you did it, they're just wrong. But mainly, I don't want nobody trying to be all up under me and around me now because now you think I'm worthy. No, you stay out my face. You can see how it's all tied together. Social media, baddie this, aesthetic that, follower following, even the red pill rhetoric, 304, blah, 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 all of that. We're being brainwashed to conform a little bit. More and more, I'm thinking of that movie. Was it called 1985? I don't think it was called 1985, but it was this movie. It was a white guy, and he had like stumbled upon these glasses or whatever. And when he put the glasses on, he could see like, you know how when you have on 3D glasses, you could see stuff that you can't see without the glasses. So he could see people that were actually lizards, and he could see the billboards actually said obey, consume, you know, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, I've been thinking a lot more about that lately.
On some level, right? Who look at themselves in the mirror and say, I'm fat, right? And that's such an odd facet of this, question of self-identification, that it is so complex. Why do you think that is?
I mean, honestly, I get people accusing me of thinking that. And so I'm always very careful to say, like, I actually don't think I'm that fat right now. And that's an important piece of privilege to acknowledge. I think there is this very common move that is especially made against women and probably also other gender marginalized people, which is what I call like a down girl move, which is to say, like, absolutely regardless of what you look like and the amount of flesh on your bones, you're fat. And it's just a very quick way to downrank you and dismiss you and say that you're not worthy or not valuable. And I do think that can easily become internalized, and people almost anticipate it and want to preempt it by saying, yes, I am fat, even when they're not. They're not in really any position to be claiming a form of oppression because they're not having trouble fitting into spaces in society. They're not having trouble buying clothes. They're not seen as anomalous when they go out in public. And so that to me is sort of the standard for fatness. Like, do you have trouble fitting in because of your breadth or girth or heft, your weight? Like, if yes, then you have a claim to fatness. If no, then not really.
The airplane seat test.
Exactly. Like, as someone who currently has no trouble in that dimension, I feel like I don't really get to claim fatness, even if whatever, like, there are ways in which I don't conform to beauty standards in terms of body size or type. But yeah, like, basically that's a test for, are you substantially able to fit into society, including, the proverbial airline seat? But does that make sense? Like, I do think some women especially, and again, non-binary.
So I find that to be interesting what she's saying, that like if you are not experiencing the more cumbersome parts of being obese in today's society, that you're not necessarily fat. Because I've experienced, and I don't necessarily like to bring this up because I don't want to come off like that woman that, like I said, wore the 1X, but she's calling the 2X's and the 3X's fat, because I'm a 2X, right? But I have experienced, in conversation when talking to people about, like, now this was when I was younger, mind you, but talking to people about like what I actually weighed and stuff like that, and people saying like, oh, you don't look like you weigh that much, or this. I have had that experience where even though I'm walking around feeling like, okay, I'm fat, and this is not me trying to say I'm not fat. I know that I am objectively fat, and I say that with no kind of emotion, no kind of sadness or longing. This is just me classifying for the sake of the conversation. I know that I am objectively fat, right? And I know that I'm medically obese, right? But this idea of like being treated, not feeling, I don't know what it's like to not be able to fit in, the thing rides. I can wear seatbelts. Sometimes it might be a little bit tighter than others. You know what I mean? But I've never experienced needing an extender or that discomfort of like, oh, I can't fit now. I'm holding up the line. This is embarrassing type of thing. I have experienced though, I can't find clothes that fit, that I like, or I don't feel comfortable in this style of clothing that's for my age range because I'm so big that I don't look in it the way I'm supposed to. I don't feel comfortable wearing my arms out, things like that. But I am not encumbered moving through the world outside of just, personal comfort and preference. So I find that interesting. She said, I mean, did you bring it up because mentioning somebody's weight is super rude? I mean, these were like conversations in general, like we're talking right now. And if I were to say I weigh blah, 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 because we're just talking about it, or people are saying how much they weigh. So nobody ever came up to me and just said, hey, you don't look as, you're not as fat as you think you are, or anything, Yeah, if your weight is, yes, because my weight is distributed everywhere. It's like I've been told that I've been told many times I carry it well.
Folks internalize this down girl or down them move of, they will admit fatness as a way to preempt a way in which they could be just quickly dismissed as less than, even when all other moves fail. So like this is in a way why I originally got interested in fatphobia, because I feel like it's one of the best tools misogyny has in its toolkit to downrank women. So my history of this is I was a girl at an all-boys high school the year it integrated.
Whoa.
So it's really fucking unpleasant. It was like 3 girls to hundreds of boys.
Wow. So it wasn't 50-50 first year. It was 3 to hundreds.
Hundreds.
Wow.
And I was smart and capable and like good at debate and drama and piano. And the best way to downrank me was to point out that I didn't conform to beauty standards and to say she's fat. And I mean, I think, then a kind of merely chubby teen, like I wasn't even that fat at that point, but it was just like, it was so effective. It was just a go-to move. So I had like fat bitch scrolled on my locker that I just had to live with for those 2 years. That was the label that made me like controllable and someone who could be dismissed because I wasn't valuable in that all important dimension. And yeah, I can see what people are saying when they say, be careful now, Kate, to admit your privilege, because I wouldn't want to be one of those people who is understandably but unfairly claiming oppression at a moment and in a way that actually reflects more a kind of like nervous, anxious preemption of that criticism than it actually applying.
Well, first of all, you went through like a crucible experience at this high school. Like, holy shit. It probably explains a lot about you. I feel like when people learn this about you, they go, oh, holy shit. Okay, wow. Oh,
that makes sense.
I actually love that idea that she's basically saying like to show empathy and acknowledgement of having privilege, in the sense that there are people who have it worse than I in the experience of being fat. You know what I mean? And I feel like that is the lack of charity that those other people were displaying, whether they were in bigger bodies or not. this idea that, oh, well, because I'm not experiencing that experience, instead of having compassion for what it must be like for you, I'm just going to down you for it, because if you're experiencing it, you should be experiencing it because of who you are and how you are. And it's your fault that you're experiencing it, as opposed to my fault for engaging with you in this way and supporting engagement with you in this way. She said her parents are wild for that. Sitting there at that school, Sally Joe. Concerned had put it into Themis's Discord earlier. She put it in, and I was doing something. I said, oh, let me watch this. And I was watching it. Like I said, I got like halfway through, and I was like, well, this is amazing. I want to watch this. And I want to watch this for the purpose of this discussion. So yes, shout out to Concern.
What year in school was this?
This is 1999 and 2000. So it's class of 2000. I'm 42 now.
Okay, so this was like towards the end of your high school experience.
Yes, this is my last 2 years. The reason I was sent there was I wanted to do IB, International Baccalaureate, and go to Princeton or whatever. And from Australia, that's not so easy to do without getting an international high school leavers diploma. So there was a reason for it. It was the only school close enough to my house that offered this certificate. It's not that my parents were trying to expose me to this hideous institutional misogyny, but that was the result. And yeah, it really explains like that original trauma is kind of what I've been trying to understand and theorize as a philosopher. Because, you asked before, how do we make good on this and form solidaristic bonds? I think a big part of it is if you have a form of privilege, like for me now, institutional privilege, like intellectual privilege, we have to use that and spend that coin to try to like form that solidarity between people and not just like abandon other folks who are in a much more vulnerable position as soon as we can.
Yeah, look, you're describing basically everything I try to do on this show. I've had a very fortunate life. I'm in a very fortunate social position here in the U.S., and I basically just try to spend that coin on behalf of other people. I spend it on myself sometimes too. I make use of it. You don't want to waste what God gave you, but at the same time, I'm like, that's sort of the goal here, right? It's the
whole thing.
Is to make sure that we're standing up for others who don't have the same privileges that we do. That's one of the only ways that we make progress, or at least one of the only ways. That's one of the best things I can do in my position to help that progress. So what I'm curious about is, so you described that sort of feeling of a non-fat by any measure person looking in the mirror saying, I am fat, right? That so many people experience. It's like a curse on so many people's lives. This, even if they have no, physically they are not fat, they feel it in this way that is painful. I know people who have grappled with this as this sort of like preemption of criticism, this sort of internalized misogyny. I'm curious if that is something that we can leverage to help build that solidarity. If everybody is, or every woman especially, is subject to that criticism, is that something we can use to build solidarity between people on this issue?
I think it is. It's a double-edged sword again, because we have to be really careful to say like where we're coming from and what kinds of privilege mean that we don't necessarily get someone else's struggle completely. And this is really interesting with fatness because it is so like, fatness is so linear. So even someone who is like very fat, suppose they're 300 pounds and they don't necessarily have any idea what it is to live a life of someone who's 600 pounds and like struggling with very different challenges and forms of oppression. So like there's this.
Me and this lady are so simpatico. I was just talking about but this is why it resonated with me when I was watching it, because I was just like, yes. These are all the things that my mind went to, all the places my mind went to when engaging in this conversation. And so it makes me feel good as someone who is very early on in like their academic study that my leanings are in alignment with professionals. Okay? So clock that.
Difficult thing where because fatness can like progress from not fat at all to, all of these different levels of it, from parlance of fat activists, small fat, mid fat, large fat, and then fat activists like Ash Nishchuk, who's really brilliant, coined the term infini fat to be like, okay, I'm just like as big as it gets. That like captures it, that I think we both have to form like solidarity with each other on the basis of those shared experiences, but also observe correctly that there are limitations to how much I get it. I think Aubrey Gordon has a really brilliant way of just sort of walking this fine line where she both wants to acknowledge that, look, a lot of people, especially people marginalized in virtue of some other facet of their identities, will experience some kind of fatphobia. However, if someone says, oh, I totally get your struggle, Aubrey, and she is someone who identifies as, a large fat woman, they are often saying something like, well, I had a bad body image day. Like I felt fat. And they're not recognizing that she might be marched off an airplane because she's perceived as not fitting, or that she might be unable to receive anything by way of adequate health care and just dismissed too fat.
Sally Joe, can you hear me? Yeah. I am in community college right now, going for my associates. I am still trying to figure out if I want to. Hey, Sambry, I'm still trying to figure out whether or not, like, I'm going to, once I finish my associates, I actually want to do more. I don't know. I'll see. I'm actually, everybody cross your fingers for me. Pray to whoever you pray to, or just send me good vibes through the universe, whatever channels you use to interact with the higher power. Because I'm actually applying for a position at the school, because with all these cuts that Trump is doing, and I feel like I have a good uh a good chance of actually getting this position at the school. But the school has really good benefits, and they pay for your education. Like, even once I finish there, if I stay there, I could get my other school paid for. So I am trying to get a position in there so that I don't have to experience any kind of stops in my education. And I am studying psychology. So there's that.
Because in one case she had an ear infection, and as she said to her doctor, my ears didn't get fat, like, why are you bringing up my weight in this context? And so I think we can both observe the commonalities but also the differences, and the way I try to do that is with the metaphor I offer of the straitjacket of fatphobia. So it kind of constrains all of us, and in particular it's often saying, even to small women, do not get fatter, do not get above this size or else. But it's like actively cutting into the flesh of people who are larger and hurting them. And so that's kind of what I try to, and saying also that they're crazy for being that way.
I just love how physical and visceral this metaphor is, where you're like, yeah, the straitjacket affects everybody, but the straitjacket sucks a lot more if you're fat, honestly, which is true. And also it says that you're crazy. Yeah, I think that it's a wonderful metaphor. I think that, to me, I use the word solidarity a lot because I'm a union guy. I think that true solidarity means acknowledging what we all have in common, the pressures that we are all under together. That is the first step of solidarity, to say we're all in it together. And then the second step is to recognize the differences that we have, and to say that, I don't understand everything about someone else's experience who I have solidarity with. Solidarity involves me saying, you and I are in the same boat, and also you have a completely different experience, and so I am going to put the work in to understand your experience and how we differ, and we're both going to give ourselves grace in that interchange, right? To misunderstand or to, take a second to catch up. We're going to stay open-minded. We're going to, that's the experience of solidarity, is to recognize sameness and difference together in a way that has capacity for both.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's exactly right. And, it's also possible to overestimate how hard that is. It's in a way not that hard to be like, I have friends of mine who are trans women, and we can totally recognize like ways in which we are being over-policed and subject to misogyny and trans misogyny, and there's so much that we have in common. And at the same time, it would be really wrong for me as a cis woman to assume I knew everything there was to know about what it's like to be embodied in that way and subject to, say, certain kinds of street harassment and potentially violence that is not going to be my experience walking down the street. So yeah, like a bit of like sensitivity and thoughtfulness is often all it takes to navigate that.
Yeah, but I also think, the fact that you don't understand that experience doesn't mean you cannot be part of that movement or part of the struggle, or that you shouldn't speak, at a meeting or something like that. We are all, solidarity means we're all in it together, and we're all going to give ourselves the grace to get there together, in a way that has capacity for that difference. So
yeah, I totally agree.
So yeah, I think that everybody can be a part of this movement that you're talking about. That's the important part. We all have a part that we can play.
I have a really brilliant student. I mean, all my students are brilliant, but this particular student,
some of them aren't brilliant, but that's nice of you to say.
It takes a lot to become a graduate student in Cornell's philosophy department. But this particular student who I'm thinking of, Amy Ramirez, wrote her dissertation partly on the idea that if we can't speak for other people at all, then like some people will never get any advocacy. So she talks about her own experience as someone who is a South Korean adoptee of both Persian and Puerto Rican parents who adopted her. And that's a pretty unique social position in terms of ethnicity and race. If we can only speak for people who are exactly the same as us, she is going to get precisely no advocacy. And so this idea that we have to be silent until we have exactly the same positionality as someone else is so pernicious and false. I mean, for one thing, we can listen to each other. And I mean, that's what we're doing. It's what you do on your show. It's
So and I agree with what they're saying, but it's not funny, but the part of it that is standing out to me is it's not that people feel like they can't speak on behalf of people. They don't want to. They're speaking, but they want to kick that other person down so that they can stand on their head. You know what I mean? I think people know that they can espouse whatever opinions they have, but it's just that the opinions they have are usually skewed towards subjugation and embarrassing people and stripping them of their dignity.
What I do when I teach scholars who are marginalized in ways that I have never experienced, say as a white person, we're listening, we're hearing testimony, we're trying to get it in ways that are often very achievable just by the act of bearing witness to other people's struggles.
I love that. So let's talk about what we're fighting for here, because you talk about remaking the world to fit fat bodies into it, right? What does that mean to you? What is the world that we're trying to build?
Some of it is highfalutin and a lot to imagine, total acceptance of every body size and shape, as well as other kinds of diversity. But some of it is so concrete and easy. So I know you've interviewed my dear friend Matt Desmond on your podcast, and we were having this conversation where I was like, Matt, am I asking for too much? Wanting justice for fat people in my classroom? And he's like, Kate, no, some things are really hard, like open borders, but you're asking for chairs without arms. We can do chairs without arms. The idea that we might have just a physical space that needs some basic accommodation because people might not be comfortable in chairs that cut into their bodies.
Yeah.
If they're tall as well as being wider, this is basic stuff. And yet when I bring it up to people at my institution, which for the record, Cornell is a wealthy place still, at least at the time of utterance.
Sticking and moving, I'm throwing a tomato at you. I'm throwing a tomato at you. I remember my baby father said something like that before. I forget what I was talking about, but he's just an ignorant, And I was talking about something and I made reference to someone who happened to be white. And he was like, I don't listen to white people. Mind you, this is someone who, a couple of years before that was expressing that they took a liking towards Stevie J because we was watching Love and Hip Hop at that particular time. He's like, yeah, I like him. I said, I don't listen to people based on their skin color. I listen to good people. I listen to what they're talking about. And if their stuff aligns with my values, then that's what we're talking about now. If it get a little weird, I can take the things that I like and leave the rest of it, right? But I'm listening for, what people are actually saying. And I think in this time and age, we most definitely cannot just be aligning ourselves with people because we know that's why this whole conversation, we're having this conversation, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So, and also this is something else I mentioned before. I'm a PBS kid. And so being that I grew up watching PBS, I grew up with a more of a worldly mindset. Even though I grew up in the hood, by the time I got out into the world, I was considered an anomaly and weird and Oreo and everything else because I had it wasn't simply focused on just the quote unquote Black experience. I had more of a expanded expectation of what society was supposed to be. And so now that I'm getting into, like I said, academia, and I've gotten so much help. The people, when I say I have a good chance of getting this position is because I've already been working. As soon as I got into school and I went to orientation, it was the office of the women's center at the school, which is run by white women. I think the lady over these two particular women is a Black woman, but the women that I engage with, they're both white women and they run the office. And they have been so accommodating to me. They have been so helpful to me. When Alicia and everybody's talking about rest, there was a point in time where I had just told them I wrote a book and about my platform and stuff. And so they were getting me speaking engagements and they got me money through scholarships and different things. And then I started to do work study this semester with them. So I'm able to get paid by being in league with them. So what I'm saying is you got to find the right people. You know what I mean? You find people that actually care and actually want to do something. This is not an endorsement saying, oh, go out and find you some good white folks today. But I'm saying I think be more attuned to what it is you're trying to do in the world or in the space that you're in. And I believe that you can find people, even if they happen to be white or some other color, you can find people that are in alignment with that because we need the work done. And we don't really have time to be bickering if the people are really inclined to do the work about who's what color. But that's just me. I get everything you're saying and you're not wrong, right? But I'm just saying that's my personal experience and that's my personal philosophy.
We're under some federal assault, like most of these premier research institutions, but we could do so much more to just think about, okay, what do we have in terms of navigable space? How big is the passage? Is the chair big enough for every size of body? Have we just thought about basic bodily inclusion that of course, includes, but also goes beyond the idea that someone might be a wheelchair user. They also might be a fat person who needs a certain kind of chair that suits their shape and weight. So that's just an example, but again, like this actually is not so expensive. It's not so cost prohibitive. It's not so difficult.
It also reminds me of the disability rights movement, which we talked about on this show many times, where part of the message, as I understand it, is like, hey, there are a lot of things about the world that if we were to redesign them in just in the same way we redesign a chair or anything that we build, a lot of so-called disabilities would not in fact be disabling if we were to simply make accommodations, right?
Completely.
Reasonable accommodations.
And I think the people often ask me about the intersection between fatness and disability, and I don't think of fatness as a disability in and of itself, but there's a huge intersection between fatness and disability. So many fat folks are disabled and many disabled folks are fat. And in both cases, and in the case of the overlap, we need to think of our job differently. Like the job isn't just to plunk down a room and have chairs that look like standard chairs. It's to think who deserves.
Oh, yeah, listen, yes, we see each other, right? But even in my particular situation, I had signed up for school. I literally went down there. I was like, either I'm going to work here or I'm going to go to school, right? And so I went down there and I filled out my applications for the job. And then I, went and found out how to get into school and everything like that. And so then I was doing orientation. And during the orientation, they had us go into separate rooms based on our majors. And I'm a psychology major. So they had us do this exercise where we introduced ourselves and we told each other why we were there. And so I started, I have this little, it was two things they asked. They asked why we were there. And then they asked us to show something that was like a symbol of why we were there or something like that. And so I started to get this little statuette that I've had forever and ever and a day it's like an African statue. It's black and gold. And it's a mother, embracing her child. And they're just kind of hugging each other like that. But something was I was just like, no, I'm going to show them my book that I wrote. And so I told them, yeah, I do advocacy. I was just going to say, I'm going back to school because, it's been 20 years and I never finished it, just regular stuff. And I was like, no, I'm going to tell them what I do because I am in school to get credential to do what I'm doing here for Level Up Single Mom. I love a credential. Okay. I believe in certificates. I believe in credentials. And so and that's another reason why I don't make as much content as other people do, because I'm very uncomfortable with the way people just get up and start talking and are selling things and everything like that. I want to be bringing something that I truly believe will help people. And so for that reason, I want to actually know about what I'm talking about, or at least I know that I know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean? I want to do my due diligence to make sure that I'm not leading people astray just based on my own feelings. And so I told the people about my platform. And then when it came time to show the thing that you had, to symbolize whatever, I showed them my book. And when I tell you, they were like, well, the first time when I said I had a platform, they were like, oh, we want to work with you. Cool. Okay. Then when we got around to showing them and I showed them I wrote a book, they were like, oh, yes, give us your information, yada, yada, yada. And from then it was on and popping those same years. That same semester, they got me a scholarship. So I got paid. They got me a speaking engagement. I got paid for that. They have just been following me and stuff. Now this year I'm doing work study with them. And I also got a grant from this organization that wants to build a family center or whatever. It's focused on student parents. So I'm sitting in the meetings and I'm giving them my insight as a student parent, and I'm telling them about my customer service background. You know what I mean? I'm networking. And that's a whole nother conversation we could have. I was talking about with the whole education is an important thing. You learn so much. I'm able to use all these skills that I was using in these little rinky-dink jobs. I'm able to come to school, do what I want to do anyway, and use those skills and actually be recognized for it. So it's just that's what I'm saying. If I were to have looked at them women oh, they white, I wouldn't have been able in a position. Now I'm in a position where they're working to help other people. They've been there for a while trying to make it easier and better for women like me. and people like me, you know, student parents and student caregivers, to be able to access the resources, because they have so many reasons. Like I wish I had known, and that's part of my work. I recognize that that is part of my work of getting the word out there about the resources that are here. And there's so many people. Now I'm on a tangent. Let me get big. That was another thing that bothered me about that guy on Twitter that was talking about, you know, Kamala Harris and, oh, we wouldn't have got help and there's so much help that people do not know about. And a big part of the reason people don't know about it is, yes, the bureaucracy is crazy. Like, and as someone who comes, like I said, from a customer service background, I'm looking at my experience going through trying to apply for this stuff and take advantage of this stuff, that I'm like, okay, I see why people aren't. And that's why they bring me in to get the information in this project. But I'm like, I'm seeing why people aren't, you're not getting as many people into the program. They don't know how to access it. They don't even know it exists. You know what I mean? So that's something that I know that I can do in the world at large. And I'm about to get on this government thing because they did something that pissed me off. I'm getting stuff from New York because somebody took, never mind. But my point is, I'm seeing, when I see something that's like, okay, this isn't working well for me, and I'm savvy about it, I know that it needs to be fixed for the people that are not savvy about it. But I'm saying that to say that any and all of the men, the Black men that are complaining, or men in general that complain about, oh, there's no programs and stuff, have you gone and actually sought out the information? Because a lot of the stuff that I know is because I'm like, look, I heard somewhere that they doing this for people. Where do I find it? And I go and I ask questions, and I make the phone calls, and I talk to the people, and I ask the questions, you know, the pointed questions to try to get what I want and need. And they're not asking it. They literally just want somebody to just hand it to bend down and hand it to them. And they want it, not only that, they want it handed to them over top of somebody else's head. So rant is over.
Need and, like, just as a matter of basic right, should have access to this space, and what does that look like to accommodate them adequately?
Yeah.
And sometimes it might surprise us. Like, you know, fat folks, for example, need longer needles to really get into the muscle of their arm when it comes to vaccines in order to be maximally effective. Fat folks need different forms of birth control, which are only approved when it comes to Plan B for people up to 150 pounds, which is a pretty low weight limit when it comes to effective morning after pills. You know, these are things that we might actually have to look into and do some research and figure out material solutions that, again, are not so difficult, but oftentimes it's just a sense of a standard issue body, and that's all we need to accommodate.
Yeah. Well, beyond just redesigning the world around us, like a phrase that comes out, fat liberation, right? What does liberation mean more broadly as something that we can envision ourselves moving towards?
So I think it means a lot of things. It means really adequate healthcare, including mental health care for fat folks, that isn't just mired in the kinds of biases that we've been talking about. So fat people face so many forms of discrimination within the healthcare system, which means that oftentimes the fact that fat people do have somewhat elevated mortality risks at very high weights could be due to the fact that they're not getting the healthcare they need and deserve, rather than sheer weight. That's a possibility worth highlighting. But we also need to have very different conceptions of fat people, that fat people are smart and capable and good, and that if we're missing out on fat people when it comes to employment opportunities, when it comes to education, when it comes to, you know, for that matter, who is able to act in Hollywood, then what we're doing is we're missing out on fat talent. We're missing out on some of the, like.
And I want you to know, like, this is not a white person like advertising. I'm not advertising like, go get you a white friend today. Like, that's not what I'm doing. But I'm saying, like, if you are goal oriented and you are forward thinking in terms of like solving big problems in the world proper, I'm sorry, there's just no way you're going to be able to do that in the white man's America without having allies. And allies is something we needed that during abolition. You know what I mean? And there were bad faith actors then on both sides, black and white. We started out, from a lot of y'all didn't come until later. We started out, before I did the intro, with a video about Frederick Douglass and his bullshit. Right? So there are bad faith actors on both sides. There are disingenuous people. I don't know if you know about the Unfuck America tour and the whole bull stew about that. So there's always going to be ready to check them if need be, but also be open to the ones that can help you and want to help you and want to make it better in the ways that you want to make it better. She says social justice. You damn right, social justice. Okay? Dang. I hear what you said, and it's a sentiment because some people need to know this. I'm letting people know that that is not my philosophy right now, but that I feel like that's an idea that deserves to be, shared, because some people are going to need to do that, and sometimes you do have to, bite the bullet. And Obama did it. You know what I mean?
Best minds and most talented people of our generation. I mean, I think about some of my absolute favorite writers like Roxane Gay and Carmen Maria Machado, who identify as fat women. Like, imagine missing out on that talent and insight and brilliance because of the size or shape of their bodies.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just them missing out because of discrimination. Society misses out hugely.
Yeah.
So I think that's a part of the puzzle. And I think too, you asked earlier about the shame piece of things. And I do think that as well as these structural and material and institutional changes, there also need
Girl, and suffragettes too. I was it was last summer. I went to New York with my cousin, and we went and watched this play called Suffs. It was about the suffragettes. Them too.
needs to be a piece of it that is, we need to look at bodies differently. And so there's been a huge amount of being spilled on body positivity and body neutrality. So these are the ideas that we should be positive about our bodies or neutral about them.
So how about that is something that I have been keeping in my back pocket, because I've been watching Alicia and Marissa and all of them, Stephanie Perry, and I've been watching and like taking in what they say. So being that I'm just embarking on my journey, that is something that I'm keeping in mind, because I'm hearing their stories. I'm like, ooh, okay. Because I did kind of go in again with that Mr. Rogers mindset of, oh yes, these are the people in my neighborhood, kind of thing. So, yeah, I'm keeping an eye out.
And I'm not sold on either of those ideas, because the idea that we should be like relentlessly positive about a subject as fraught as our own bodies strikes me as like really hard to pull off. I mean, I'm not positive about anything really. So like about my own body, like, no, thank you. And neutrality, like, it's a bit closer to what I believe, but it's a bit sad. It's a bit it's a bit depressing to be like meh about everything. And so the option that I found liberating in this process is what I call body reflexivity. And that is the idea that a body isn't good or bad or neutral. It's like not in the business of being assessed on a scale at all. We shouldn't be thinking about bodies as having a kind of rank, even a positive or neutral rank. And instead, my mantra in this became, my body is for me and your body is for you, and like so on and so forth, for every person, for every non-human animal. And yeah, this idea that bodies are really only for their denizen, I think has like far-reaching political implications. And it's this simple idea that it makes me feel less self-critical when I look in the mirror, because if my body is for me, then like judgment just becomes odio, surplus to requirements. Like, it doesn't even make sense to be judging your body in this way.
See, this is what a philosopher brings to this conversation, right? When talking about body positivity or body neutrality, well, those terms still have a judgment in them, a value judgment,
exactly.
a ranking. They are simply enforcing that you make a particular judgment. Well, if you just better judge them well. Hey, what if we didn't judge them at all? What if we said these things are not in fact ranked? They simply exist. And they exist. To whom do they exist? The person who is the body. You're not just in the body, you are the body, which is, look, when I was, I normally don't have a conversation with a philosopher on this show without mentioning, I do have a bachelor's in philosophy myself, the possible degree in the subject one can have. But the thing I studied at the end of my 4 years was the mind-body problem. The problem of identifying yourself with your body is like a very difficult problem in philosophy. Just to simply say, I am the meat that is walking around. It's really difficult to internalize that. And yet we know it to be true. And to really internalize it would be to say, yes, I am the body. The body is me. And how could it be ranked? Like, we don't rank people. People aren't things that are ranked up and down. They simply exist.
That's beautifully put. It's so well put. And it's, sometimes I get people saying to me like, well, this is such a strange idea. How could we stop ranking bodies even positively? And it's like, I think we do this all the time. Like, there's a reason why the Twitter account, We Rate Dogs, is a parody account. We don't rate dogs. Like, every dog gets over a 10 out of 10 because dogs are just like, they're great. They're for themselves. It's not about that. Like, similarly, we don't rate sunsets. I don't even think we rate kids' bodies, and we don't rate all human beings' bodies. It's actually like a very select class of people, girls and women for the most part, who at a certain age, we suddenly think that, okay, there's this valid prospect of
Study them back. Let me get big. It's time to get big. See, the thing is, and this is where I think a lot of people get caught up at with any oppressive force. Yes, the oppressive force will study you. The oppressive force will learn your movements and will master you. Look back. That's why you can't let them get in your mind. That's why you can't let them have you all mixed up to the point where you discombobulated and you can't focus. Watch their asses back. They looking at you, look right back at them. Watch them, because you can figure them out just as well. And the thing is, I think you can do it a lot easier because they're not expecting you to do it, right? Donald Trump isn't really paying people attention, I don't think. Donald Trump is an idea man and or a figurehead, because he might not even be the one pushing the ideas, right? He might just be the power force of, oh, everybody's getting behind you. But there's a bunch of people behind him that are the ones watching. And since nobody's expecting it from us, it's time for us to watch. That's why we need to be getting educated, okay? And if you can't go to school, whatever, like I said, a lot of what I know, this might sound pretentious, but I'm recognizing now that I'm in school, my ideas about what school was going to be like, you know, because this was a dream deferred for 20 years. My ideas about what school was going to be like, and mind you, I'm in my local community college or whatever, but it's not what I thought it was going to be. It's not as hard, as difficult as I thought it was going to be. Now, I'm just starting, and I am in, pre-college, basically, right? But my skill set, how I learn, what I know how to do in terms of the work that I'm going to have to do this, I'm like, oh, I can handle this. And so what I'm saying is, typically we talk ourselves out of things that are unfamiliar to us, or that we just don't have knowledge of how it works. But typically once you get in, you'll find it's a lot simpler, that even if it's going to be hard, even if it's going to take a lot of time and dedication and discipline, it's still a lot simpler in terms of the things you're actually going to have to do. And so what I'm saying is, when I'm talking about listening to these men and stuff, because people don't be listening to the people that they're interacting with, that they feel like are coming after you. Listen to them. Hear what they're saying. Start to pay attention to the patterns in what they say, what they're paying attention to, what's important to them, what the implications are around the stuff that they're saying in terms of what's important to them, what's driving them, all those types of things, because it's in that information that you get the power to be able to strategize, both against them and beyond them. So if you feel like white people are watching you, watch them right the fuck back. Watch them back. And maybe that's why I feel, now I know, not to get into the hubris of thinking that I'm smarter than, the average bear, or smarter than the powers that be. But like I said, I'm just kind of I'm being very observant, as I am with everything else. And I'm taking in, and I'm mostly looking for what's the next opportunity for me to further my own goals. Right. So just stay observant. That's the best advice I can give anybody in every situation. It works for every situation, in every room you're in, and whoever, no matter who's in it. Stay observant.
Or neutrality. It's like, we don't have to get into that game in the first place. The idea that you kind of have to have body positivity, say, imagine how odd it would be to be body positive about 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
We don't need it because there's no prospect of negativity. They're just like doing their thing, running around or whatever it is. And that's what I want for all of us. Like a kind of, we don't judge, we don't rank. It's just like a silly idea because we are our bodies.
Yeah. I can't believe this popped into my head, but I think that's true. I think it's hard to remember it. One of the best t-shirts I've ever seen, my friend Dave, who I believe has a company called Things by Dave. He makes t-shirts, he makes bumper stickers. His most famous t-shirt, he made a shirt that said in big block letters, "I'm fat, let's party." Right? That's the shirt. I've known many people to wear that shirt. That shirt communicates a wonderful thing.
Yes.
Right? I'm fat, let's party. It's like, here I am. This is what it is. Now we're going to party, And
that's so good. Yeah. It's just like, let's move on. It's not about that. Like,
yeah.
And it partly captures this idea that we can be joyous in our bodies, and that has absolutely nothing to do with the size we are or what we look like or anything. It's just the internal is what, and the feelings that our bodies can provide and how we can enjoy them, and also sometimes how they can betray us and how it can be hard to be in a body. That's what it's about. Not the kind of, the sense of this really, as Marilyn Frye, the feminist philosopher, calls it, the arrogant eye of like, especially the male gaze that we internalize and say like, well, how do I measure up? Like, if we could just jettison that, we would be so much better. We could potty.
I'm going to have to let Dave know that his t-shirt, which I don't know if he makes anymore, but that his t-shirt
might need one.
Is philosopher approved. He should do another print run based on this episode. And it's a wonderful note to end on. Kate, it's been absolutely incredible talking to you. I love your insight.
Okay, so yeah, that was that. I like that. Again, I want to thank Concern. I know she's not here, but for bringing that to my attention so we could watch that. Yeah, I mean, all the things, like I said, they hit all the beats that I remember being discussed, both on like Themis's live and places that I'm actually talking to people, or what's the content that I've seen talking about these things. I definitely appreciated, like I said, getting that verification, that what's that called, validation of a learned scholar, you know, in alignment with my leanings, with my beliefs, with my ideas about and my perception of the situation, the historical context, all of that. I think that was amazing. I am going to go ahead and play. Let me get rid of some of these. Oh, wait, is that me? Oh, that's not me. Let me not do that because I mess around and end this live by accident and I'm gonna be so mad. I'm gonna go ahead and play the outro, and then we're gonna come back on the other side and want to have a few things to end with. So give me a second. Okay. Okay, so I said we were going to talk about this because this really pissed me the heck off. First off, let's start on some cunty stuff. People, and I know this is more white people, I'm sorry, but I like Pamela Anderson. Since we're talking about like presentation, you know, the white people were coming at Pamela Anderson and they were like, oh yeah, she looks a mess, you know, because she doesn't wear makeup and stuff anymore. And she was just like, she's along the lines of, she's like, look, I did the whole thing. Y'all know what it is. You know what I could do. Like, I'm just living for me right now. I want to be comfortable. I'm literally a grandma. Like, let me live. But recently she said she had to pop out and show them. And I am all for that because baby, but again, like you already knew the deal. Is this open? You already knew the deal though. Yeah. Feast your eyes on that. Okay. So our girl is back. You know, it is what it is for the haters. Yeah, I love it. And she's so sweet. She's such a sweetie pie. Looking good, looking the same. And that's the thing. And she could have been doing this all along. She said, no, like I'm chilling. So what? I got older. Whatever. She's still a smoke show. Like, irrefutably. Let me go to the look at her. Look at this. Child, who was they playing with? Who was they talking to? Not the queen. Not the queen. Okay, she is forever. They could never. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to show you that because that made me feel nice. It's that she can't. That's just what her eyebrows look like now. Like she made, they are permanently that way. What's that other Megan Good got some weird eyebrows too. Megan Good's are thicker than hers, but they still, it's like, even with, yeah, I'm not even trying to say she looks bad regular, I'm just like, but still, you already know the potential. That's what I'm saying. Like, you already know who this is. It don't matter if she walk around like this. You already know that she could do this, but she shouldn't have to. She want a clean, fresh face. Then she can wear a clean, fresh face. The lady is a grown ass lady. Leave her alone. So yeah, let me. I'm sorry, I had to go off real quick. Yeah. So, what is the y'all? Let me find this. So this is what I'm really. Oh, you know what too? Copy that. I'm gonna put this in the chat in case anybody wants to come up. Ooh, I almost ended the stream. I would have been so pissed. That's in case anybody wants to come up. But in the meantime, y'all gotta see this crap. Look at this. Look at this. This is what I'm talking about with time and place. Because why in the hell did you need to do this? Why the hell did you need to do this with your babies in the family picture? Like, what are you trying to convey here? What are we supposed to? Can you see that? What are you trying to convey with this image? This really pissed me off when I saw it. And they are dragging the mess out of her on Twitter, as they should. And my question is, did you go there with no pants on? Like, did you get out of your car and walk into the place? Because this looked like a Sears or something, right? Type of thing. Did you get out of your car? So what's happening? And go into the place with no pants on? Is that what you did? Or did you go in? I can't figure out which one is more ridiculous. That's what I'm asking. Did you go in and thusly remove your pants when you got in there? And so Toni Braxton was doing this at her son's graduation. No, she wasn't. Are you serious? So her kids probably see that. Well, I'm a naked mom or a naked-ish mom. You know what I mean? Like, I don't always have clothes on. I mean, I only have girls, so I don't know if that would have changed if I had a boy or not. This is, to me, this is fine for walking around in the house, right? But this picture, the family picture, she said, you know what? It's her family portrait. It is her family portrait, but I'm struggling to understand okay. It's the family portrait. I'm going to assume it's going to be on display, even if it's just within the home. She is fine. Ain't nobody, that's not in dispute. She is fine. I'm assuming it's going to be on display in the home or somewhere, but shoot, it got online, so she displayed it. What is it that you were trying to evoke in people in seeing this? What did you expect people to look at this and say? Because it's not giving family friendly. That's all I'm asking. You know, this isn't about, I'm not trying to judge or push a thing. I genuinely want to know what she was thinking. I want to know what her intent is and was. I'm curious. My curiosity is piqued. That's all I'm saying. She said, but we only view this as wrong because that is what we are told. I'll say this much about it. Because to me, I have no problem with having a bodacious ass. I have no problem with showing off your bodacious ass, right? I don't even have a problem with you being super fine and sexy in the presence of your children. But when you go so far as to remove your pants or not wear pants, to me, that feels like there's an emphasis that you're putting on your ass. Because it's big enough. If she had full pants on, you would have seen it. You probably could see it from the front. So the ass was always going to be present and accounted for, right? But the way she's positioned and what she did to make sure that you saw the ass means that there's a emphasis on the ass that she is putting on. And what I'm saying is, why do the kids have to be like, what do you, that's what I'm saying. Like, what is it that you want? What is the message you are trying to convey with this? Because any one of those, if you cut her off and slide the kids over and slide her over 2 different pictures, hey, live it up. But I'm trying to figure out what these 2 things combined. Because I personally don't think, is she a dancer or a dentist? Who knows? I mean, it's not even about whether or not she's a dancer for me. It's just about that mixing of genre, I guess. The genre. What genre is this supposed to be? Because it's not giving family time. She would have looked good in a sexy black dress. Yeah, like, she said all that booty is how they got the. Is it? That might have came after. She might have got the mommy makeover. I don't know. That's what I was thinking too. And somebody else said that. Is that all her or BBL? Now, she paid good money for it. I also get the urge. Again, I get the urge to show it off, even if it is natural. I'm not saying that her wanting to show you how fine she actually is a problem. But why are you doing this in the picture with the baby? You get what I'm saying? Like, these are competing messages for me. These are competing messages, is all I'm trying to say. The themes don't, that's continuity, people. Continuity. That's all I'm talking about. That's all I'm talking about. She said a family of minds. Some families got booty. Actually, and I'm inclined to believe this is real because, I hate this. I'm not trying to dissect baby, but baby girl looks like she has a nice little shape. You know what I mean? So I'm inclined to believe that this, or most of a good bit of this is real, is her, right? But it ain't about that. It's about what type time are we on right now? Is what I'm trying to figure out. She said, I'm too silly for this. I mean, no, it could be worse. It could be worse, but I'm just like, I'm confused. That's all I'm trying to say. I'm confused. So yeah, if that is it, if nobody is trying to cut, she said, College Park, listen, okay, I found you, Miss New Booty. Okay, why did I used to sing that as a lullaby to my youngest baby, Miss New Booty? It was so cute though, because I found her. Anyway, she said they told her she gonna get 2 photos, and she came with 2 outfits, and the other one wasn't black. Listen, her mommy time includes the donk. I'm sure. She said the cake wasn't caking. If the cake wasn't caking, would anybody be as good? Yes, I would be concerned why she chose to take her pants off in the family portrait with the babies. Yes, I would. I would be asking the same question. If her butt was half the size, I would be asking the same question, because why are you taking your pants off? Like, what are we talking about? Come on. I think, yeah, it's not that she don't look bad in and of herself. Do I think she looks a mess? No, I don't think she looks a mess. She looks good. She knows she looks good. But what are we doing? That's what I'm like. What is it, Uchi Wally or One Mike? Is it Uchi Wally or Mo Mike? That's what I'm asking. They said the butt bigger than the baby. Please. She said, Miss New Booty is so, isn't it? I thought it was the cutest thing. I just found myself singing it. She said, Push and P. Okay, the big one, not the little one. It said, I'm showing this to my grandma. She gonna have a fit. Don't lay grandma out with this. I should show this to my grandma. Oh my Lord, she'd be talking about this for a week. He said, I wouldn't post it. I would keep it for the house. But yeah, that's what. But what you what you gonna think when grandma come in? Like, what do you think she gonna say? She said, this is something. It's definitely absurd. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't mad at it. I'm just confused. What they say? Grandma ain't mad. She just confused. Auntie ain't mad. Well, we look like we probably about the same age. It says she looks good. She should have done a separate. That's what I'm saying. Like, y'all get multiple port. Like, why was it important for you to show the kids and the ass at the same time? What is it? I keep saying this and I mean it. What is she trying to convey here? She said, cake or no cake, I'ma still side hire in the all black chain. That's a classic, Lorenza. You know that's a black classic. She said, don't show grandma. You know that's a classic. Okay. The black, and it's so simple. I kind of like the black with the chain look. I kind of like it. But I would have preferred pants on the mama or a skirt or something. Like, what's going on? Said it almost looks Photoshop because of how she's standing. I bet Reddit is having a field day. I found this on Twitter. And when I tell you they are dragging her, I would love to see what the grandma would have had. Lord, I hope that the grandma is alive and well, but I don't think that would have been too much for me. Because what are y'all doing? What are we doing? She said, my only concern is what her old eldest daughter will think. Well, the thing that I'm learning about kids is kids be knowing when their parents are ridiculous. They do. They be knowing when their parents are ridiculous, so, and she looks like a cutie. I just hope whatever she's learning that she lives well off of it. I'll say that much. So, all right, she said, we don't know this lady family. How we know the grandma don't approve? We don't. That's what I'm saying. We don't. She ready to put not tiptoe to the curb. Listen, but that's what if I see somebody in the club with no pants on. Listen, and mind you, my thing, because like Beyonce don't wear pants, but Beyonce is putting on a whole like Beyonce is a performer. Anybody just walking around in stockings in a bodysuit, in a clip up in your coochie bodysuit is out of control. Is absolutely crazy. I'm sorry. It's absolutely crazy. That's not a superhero. We going to figure some things out. First of all, that reminds me, I forgot the girls are walking around in the body stockings. Remember, well, I'm from Philly, and you said this place called Condom Kingdom. I think it's still down there on South Street. That's like let me make this small. Let me get her over there. Not because she don't, but to just be talking about her. There's a place called Condom Kingdom, and they had a bunch of different stores that were like sex shops and stores where strippers could go to buy their outfits and stuff. And so now the stripper outfits are the outfits that the girls are wearing out to the steakhouses and stuff. Like they're wearing body stockings. And I am just like, that's the auntie grandma in me is coming out because I'm just like, girl, that don't even look right. I mean, not that they look bad in them or whatever, but it's just like, girl, I saw one with one on and they had sneakers on with it. Like, the girls don't know how to dress. I'm sorry. They don't know how to dress. They just don't know how to dress. It's pandemonium in these streets, okay? She said, I remember those. She said, body stockings outside? Yes. Yes. She said, did you say Condom Kingdom? I absolutely did. It's a staple. It's a what's that called? Not a milestone. I can't remember. You know what I'm talking about. Like the Liberty Bell. You go to South Street, you go to Condom Kingdom and giggle and get penis shaped whistles and stuff. Like you get stuff for your bachelorette parties or whatever and get the little cheeky games and things. She said they're wearing, she said, sneakers? Yeah, sneakers. Yeah, sneakers. Who's it? Oh, it's 2 L's. Hello, 2 L's. 2 L's. Why did you?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand all that. And that is a lot. That's
listen. I ain't mad at the abundance. I'm just trying to figure out, how did you do this? Like, what were the schematics of how this came to be and what you're trying to tell us with this? What is it that you want the takeaway to be? That's all I'm trying to figure out.
Mama is pushing P. She's letting you know she pushed, what was it, 4 of them?
Listen,
She pushed all 4 of them
and
on
I
her
see
knee.
why. And I see why. I'm not hating in the least bit. I'm just confused.
Yeah, I mean, it is like you could she still could have achieved the same look with like leggings on, for real. She could have. Or the whole bodysuit. Do you remember the store? I don't know if it's still open. American Apparel
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with the disco pants, and that was like really popular. And then the cat suit.
I think I got something in there right now. I went to American Apparel and I got it to this day. Is the one thing I ever bought from American Apparel. It happened to be an extra large. And what do you say? Let me squeeze my tiny ass in it. I squeezed my tiny ass in it. And it's like, it looked like a bathing suit, but it's hot pink and it's black mesh in the middle. So the titties is just sitting there, but the hot pink is covered. I look like a superhero. I look like a superhero.
Well, you
Mm-hmm.
serving melons today, honey. You got the melon
Can I
color.
tell you, well, mind you, we talk about like body image and stuff. I didn't start doing stuff like this, like letting the girls just sit out like this, till like a couple years ago. I was uncomfortable.
Let them girls sit out. Just, give, honey, give.
Listen, I might need to book a photo shoot with a baby, huh?
Yeah, listen.
Like
Get
show
the
off your
girls.
wares, show off your wares, your children and your
And
bodily goods.
listen, maybe moms need to have more photo
Girl,
shoots like
please,
that.
please,
Because
just
the trend now where I don't know if it's true, where the moms are like the girls are dressing their mom in their clothes, and they're like, oh, this is my
yes.
mom,
Oh
and
my
then
God. No, I love that. And the thing is, and everybody's like, oh my God, we've been stealing these women's lives. Like, why are they dressing like this? They don't have to do it. Like, it doesn't have to be this way.
right. And
People are
it just
losing their minds. They're like, oh my God, these are real women.
people are losing their mind like, oh my God, your mom got a body. Why wouldn't she?
First of all, let me tell you something. Now, my mom don't have no butt. And the little bit of butt I had, I worked for. Like I said, I've done physical things to like try to improve on my body. And I have seen a difference. But I had to do so much. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so my grandmother, my grandmother has a, my grandmother.
She got
I'll
shelf.
just say that. I'll just say that. So the women, they have bodies, but it's just like you get into those mindset. And honestly, can I say that was what I was kind of like fighting against when I had my kid? It was just like, look, I'm a me. I'm a person, like, yeah, I'm a mom, but I'm Kiana, and I'm going to define what that means at every given stage of my, like, I'm not going to go into the dark night of motherhood to where you can't even recognize me no more.
Right. Now here's the thing. I love me a good moo around the house. You gotta let the labias breathe. You gotta let the titties hang. You gotta do all the things.
Yes, I
But
did
yeah.
squats. I did squats, Summer. She Granny got a wag. She got the wagon of all wagons. She kept it all for herself. None of us have it. None of us.
Yeah. A lot of my aunties, like my great aunts, my lord today. My my aunt, one of my aunts is an elder in the church, and she had on the little elder's robe. Baby, you can see that thing from the front.
Not in the robe. The robes are so big.
They told her she had to go up the size of her robe because I mean it's very patriarchal. But they was like, oh wow, we feel like the men who are coming to the church are gonna be distracted. I was like, well, that thing
Well,
huge.
put them
So
out
even if
because they're not there for the Lord.
exactly, I was like, one, why does she have to modulate what she wear? Because this nigga can't get himself together. Like, okay. Two, why you only? Because there's women who was staring at her butt. So I mean, it's there.
A
Like
body
for
going
them to
body,
look.
body going body, and a big body bends.
Yes. So it's just like, I didn't agree with it, but she was like, "Look, I bought this robe. These robes ain't cheap. They need to be saved or something like that." She said, but yeah, they wanted her to wear like a larger robe.
It said, actually, I want to know what's the difference between having the tatas on display versus the cake. If she had the tatas out, would people be as concerned? So yeah, let's talk about. She said I started squats, so it make a difference. Like, and I ain't even do nothing major, Summer. Like, I think I showed y'all the picture before. Like, I literally just did a squat challenge. I didn't change my diet or nothing, and it didn't get bigger, but the shape is completely different. Like, my back was almost flat and kind of flabby, and then like I might have to pull it up one day and show y'all. But let me see. Let me go back. What's the difference between having the tatas on display versus the cake? If she had tatas out, would people be as concerned? I don't think so. Like, now, mind you, I would not wear this for a family, like for the purposes of doing a picture with my daughter. I might have some cleavage, but it wouldn't be like you see me fiddling with this all night. It just keep pulling itself down, right? But I probably wouldn't wear this particular garment for a family photo, but I probably would show some kind of cleavage. So I don't know. I've seen women with stuff like, I mean, now honestly, we see TV sexy moms or whatever, and this is around about, like what's her name, Sofia Vergara and stuff like that. She's touted as being sexy, but I don't necessarily think this is controversial. And one of the reasons I don't think it's controversial is because this is a full garment. Like, I'm not there sans normal amount of clothes by wearing this top. You know what I mean? Now, if I go there, if she went there in just a bra or pasties, I think people would be like, what the fuck is going on? The same way, like, she don't have no pants on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's it. It's not even about if she had pants on and she still turned to the side to see the booty, I'd be like, girl, you know what you do. But it's not the same thing as like, oh no, I'm not even going to wear pants. You're going to see this ass. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
I think as
Susceptible
far as
to-
Twitter is concerned, yeah, they would have dragged her either way. I mean,
yeah.
that's just, I don't know. Twitter is a wild place.
Twitter, listen, I know that I need to, or Teslas. I won't say I know I need to, because sometimes I do just be like, I'm not going on Twitter. I don't feel like going on Twitter. Like, I just won't go on Twitter. And then other times I find myself, I said some stuff on there today. I bet you they cussing me out. Because some days who was I talking to? It was somebody else I was talking to. It's like, yeah, because sometimes I go on Twitter and just get my shit off. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Sometimes I just go on there and just be talking to people. I don't go on there to like call people stupid or anything like that, but I will go on there to like engage in conversation and tell people like, you're wrong and this is why you're wrong. And you're a bad person.
I will cause a war on Twitter and don't go back just because none of my like notifications are on, and I might circle back around like a week later. And
I don't have no notifications on for like any of my social media apps, but I will just peek in periodically and be like, oh yeah, oh he cussing me out, oh he called me fat, oh but that's rarely happened. I had my first instance, I think it was earlier today. I went to somebody that I follows tweet, and I saw somebody had commented on it, and I went to like the comment, and I saw that it was like, oh, you can't like it because this person blocked you. And I'm like, I've never seen this person in my life, so I must be tweeting good. People I don't even know is blocking me.
Baby, you shaking the table.
I'm shaking the table. And I'm like, what I said, because I know this type of stuff. I go on there, coming at the pick-me's. I go on there coming at the mean parents. I go on there coming at, you know how we get down. And so I'm like, okay, which one was it, sis? Which one was it? Was the straw that broke the camel's back for you? Okay. I'm curious.
Right, because I'm like, well, I said that? Oh, okay. Like, girl,
exactly. Like, what I even say? What I even do?
And they be like, mention. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, so
you don't need to be on Twitter. Don't get on Twitter. It's a cesspool. Like, honestly, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Don't do it.
It
I
is a
don't know.
place.
I'm nowhere near famous, but I know I'm getting there. I'm going on the way, and people blocking me. But also, there's a feature too where like you can block people, because that's what happened. There was something that happened on Twitter a couple months ago where everybody was like, who is this person that has like half of Black Twitter blocked or most of Black Twitter blocked? And what it was you could block certain people and also whoever follows them or something or their friend. And so if you just block this one person that has like a big following, I guess a lot of people get wrapped up in that. So that could be the case as well with that particular person. Because I'm like, I'll never remember interacting with you.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know this person. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, you said that. All right. You got it all. All right, cool.
Girl, she said I haven't been able to log into Twitter for years. My account was hacked. There's too many steps for me to. It ain't really worth it. And the thing is, when everybody was mad at Twitter for something, I forget what it was. Was it like last year or the year before that? Everybody was mad, like we're leaving, we're going to Blue Sky. I got Blue Sky. I opened that thing maybe like 2 or 3 times in the beginning. It was too tame for me. I was bored. I feel bad about that. Like I feel like I'm a messed up individual because I couldn't just enjoy Blue Sky, right? But I still got it. I got it. Maybe one day I'll grow up enough
Yeah, I
to
said
be able to enjoy it.
I was cheating on Blue Sky with Twitter, and I
Oh
said that's
Lord.
the only ex that I'll go back to. Hello.
Right. Girl, don't get me started on TikTok when they was shutting it down. I won't say I was sick, but I was sad. But I accepted it. Then it came back. So we out here. Oh yeah, that's right. Follow me on TikTok. It's LUSM by Mixed Beauty, because I'm not putting Level Up Single Mom up there because again, I'm not arguing with these people.
Girl.
Child,
Yeah,
you know what I
you
be
be
going through.
retweeting what is it? Reposting over on TikTok. Retweet is on Twitter. My bad.
Yeah, reposting what?
No, your videos, just to put them in the algo.
Oh yeah. Oh, you said I should repost them?
No,
I
I'm saying
didn't.
that I repost them. Like
Oh,
I don't
thank
even
you. Yes,
realize
you
they
do.
be like
You wake up.
from.
I think Coco, Alicia, like thank you all for your engagement on TikTok. I had to block a few people because they were saying like if the people that follow you aren't engaging with your stuff, that holds you back in the algorithm. So I had to kind of go through and like get a few people out of there so that
Oh
you can push it a little bit. I mean, it's doing better, and I'm also learning about like when the best times to post and stuff are. And you see, I
yeah,
keep posting that same thing because that's what works. Like out of
yeah,
everything that I've done on there and spilling my guts and spilling my heart out or whatever. I mean, I ain't telling my business or nothing, but with my
right.
thoughts, well thought out things. Ain't nobody listening to that shit. They want to see funny stuff or quirky stuff or whatever. So for people who don't know what I'm talking about, on my TikTok, I stumbled upon the idea to just take like this B-roll footage of me just doing nothing in particular, just sitting, kind of looking off into the distance or eating or listening to music or whatever. And I'll just put a caption over like, what do you be thinking? And then so my thought is whatever the sound is over the video. And they love it. I don't know, like that's what they're like. They won't get. Now I was having an idea. I made out like a whole new little social media strategy. Don't steal my strategy, y'all. But I was working on like a whole little social media strategy of like, where do I put it? Oh yeah, this is it. You wouldn't see it. It looked crazy. Anyway, because it's in there. That's why I made myself a whole little social media strategy. I'm thinking about making 3 more TikToks. One for birth your bag, one for build your boundaries, one for refine your shine. Those are the things on the banner at the top of my page on YouTube. And I can show y'all that, can I? I can show you the world. Let me see.
You better show. You better promote yourself, girl.
Canva. Ain't nobody. Do y'all like my new stuff? My new it's not new branding, but like I freshened up my branding. These are the same logos and colors and stuff, but I was like, oh, let me just throw this together and try to like update it. Because before I just had the thing that's on the background of I can get rid of this. The thing that's on the background of How can you see this? So see
Yeah,
this
I like it.
background?
It's pretty.
I had that before, but
Mhm.
I switched it to, let me share. Sorry, everything in my computer is like, all right, bitch, I gave you a couple hours. What you think this is? It's moving all slow. It's moving all slow. It's like, all right now. All right. I'm so sorry.
No, you ain't gotta apologize, girl. We good.
Okay, so this is what my banner is, but you only see that middle part. Can you see it?
Yeah, I like it. It's pretty. You
Yeah,
giving
so
look.
when I go,
You giving body. Hmm.
cause this is
And
the thing. So can we talk about, let's really talk about what we're talking about here today, right? When it comes to aesthetics, that's one of the things I think that I'm bringing more into the platform now, because I I was focused more so on like the message, you know what I mean? And I knew like, oh yeah, I could put on my makeup and this and that and the other. But I think I've really been observing, the people that get big, and you either have to be speaking like someone who just knows every single little thing, right? Or
yeah.
you have to, can I move this up? Is it 19%? Yeah, I made it a little bigger. Or you have to be, it has to be aspirational in some kind of way to people. Like people have to want to be you, or they just want to listen to you or whatever. And I think I've been moving a little too meek in terms of just like, oh, I'm just offering this thing and da-da-da-da-da. So I'm trying to find that balance again, because I don't want to position myself as anybody's Lord and Savior, or I don't want minions. I want to interact with people, and I want to actually help people with whatever
Yeah.
they may need help with. But I'm also recognizing like I'm going to have to be bolder. I'm going to have to stand out more, and I'm going to have to be more aspirational. When they look at this, I'm going to have to grab their attention and keep it. So like I'm just working on that. That is
But I
where I'm
think showcasing yourself along with your message makes the message like more relatable. I think this is also showcasing like, yeah, I have leveled up as a single mom, and not just aesthetically. But we all know that the aesthetics is what pull people in.
the
Like,
aesthetics is what pulled at the end of the day, because the thing is I could be
yeah,
lying, I could be bold faced lying about every single thing, right?
right.
But if I got the look, oh, everybody's gonna be on it. Or if I'm talking like I got it all, and so that's been my
Hmm.
thing of like, I know what I know, and I got what I got going on, right? But
Yeah.
I have to find that comfort level of like, honestly, of talking my shit for real, for real.
You
So
talking your ish and you look good while you doing it. Cause those three pictures,
thank
can you
you,
hear my
girl.
snap? Yes.
Thank you, girl. Yeah, and that's why I'm glad like I pushed myself to put the makeup on, even though it would have been an alignment for me to just be regular. But I was like, you know what, no. And that's also something else too, why I am slow to do so much content, because I want to be able to bring actual value, and I also want to bring production value and stuff too. So I have a perfectionist spirit for real, for real. Even
Oh,
though I
I
be talking all that
understand.
relax and stuff, I still do struggle with a perfectionist spirit.
Yeah. That's
Mm-hmm.
understandable. I'm the same way. I will procrastinate because I'm like, oh, it's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get out of that and just be okay. Like it doesn't have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
understand you completely. I completely understand you.
Yeah, so just try to find that happy medium. But I want to thank everybody that was here tonight. Thank you for coming up. Thank everybody that came and spent time with me, listening to me. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Please, and when I say share, like if you know anybody like, oh, they might like her, go ahead and share it. If you know a single mom that needs to get down with the stuff I be talking about here, if it's not this video, share it with a video that you feel like is relevant to them. Oh, let me put this up. Just, you know, for anybody, and this ain't just for people who are here live. Anybody can do it at any time. This does not expire. If you want to support
Period.
the channel, if you want to support the channel, also, this is the QR code to purchase a copy of my book in paperback, and this is a QR code to purchase a copy of my book in ebook form. It's a downloadable file. So yeah, I think that, oh yeah, no, that's for the tickets. Ain't nobody coming here for the tickets. But yeah, that's it for tonight. Thank you guys for kicking it with me. I'm happy. I was a little trepidatious about this because I didn't think I'd be able to keep track of like all my thoughts, but following along in the thing, I was able to talk about everything I wanted to talk about. So I like this. I think this is my favorite to date or in a long time.
This is wonderful. I'm so happy for you. You know, we're the sisterhood up in there. We support our girls.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, and everybody stream Alicia Renice the artist on all platforms.
Yes.
And use her music in if you're doing TikToks and reels and all that good stuff, shorts, use it in that, because we need her out here. She's the one. And, oh, this is my time for everybody within the sound of my voice, because we're all a small little community. In my mind, I don't know if she's still here or not. If she's not here, even better, because we got to kind of not do it in secret, but I think it would be nice to just kind of do it for her. I feel like Alicia, out of all of us, if we put our collective might together to push her, I think that would be a great thing for the collective, because with more visibility comes more opportunities and everything like that. And I know that Alicia is so community minded, like she would be perfect to position in that way to further our goals for, you know, the world at large. So just keep that in mind, and listen out, wait out for me for more directives, because I be having ideas. I'm the idea man, right? I'm the Trump of this shit. So all right, but love everybody. Thank you.
Oh, and a lot of people here who this was their first live. So
I know. Welcome everybody that's here. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave me comments. Also, let me put my email. Don't laugh at how I'm typing. So that is my email, Kiana@levelupsinglemom.com. Please email me if you have any other ideas, anything you want me to talk about. You can send me clips, videos, stuff you see on social media. I can take a look at it or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Love you all. I will see you next time.